Chapter 211. As Han Hao comforted E, he looked at me and said, "Of course. E is so cute. This is my first time taking care of a child. I thought it would be difficult for E, but I was wrong. E and I hit it off very well. I like E very much." I reached out to take the photo and looked at it again and again. From a stranger's point of view, Han Hao, E, and I really looked like a family. Was this a hint to me? Seeing that Han Hao was really good to E, I was very comforted. I looked at Han Hao and said softly, "Xiao Hao, I have something to tell you." Han Hao hugged E and said softly, Tell me. What is it?" I glanced at E. She had just finished drinking milk and was a little sleepy. She lay in Han Hao's arms and closed her eyes. She looked like she had fallen asleep. I looked at Han Hao and thought for a moment. "Do you want to take care of E?" "What I mean is, do you want to take care of E with me?" "Of course I do. I like E. I will definitely take care of her." Han Hao was halfway through his sentence when he seemed to understand something. He suddenly looked at me in surprise and said, "Xiaoli, you agree? You agree to be with me?" My face was very red. I nodded and said softly to him, I agree to be with you. This time, I will not be with you as a friend. I will be with you as your girlfriend. Are you willing?" "I am willing. Xiaoli, I am willing. I have been waiting for this answer for too long. But now it is all worth it because I have been waiting for it." I saw tears in Han Hao's eyes. I had never doubted his feelings for me. I moved closer to him and looked at E, who was sleeping soundly in his arms. Then I raised my head and looked at him. I reached out and touched his face gently. I kissed him on the cheek and hugged his neck. Leaning on his shoulder, my heart suddenly calmed down. It was as if I had found comfort and found a harbor. E was sleeping soundly in Han Hao's arms. Since it was Han Hao's first time taking care of a child, I was afraid that the same posture would make him uncomfortable. So I pushed the pram over and carried E into the pram. The little girl slept soundly after eating and drinking her fill. She just turned over and continued to sleep. I leaned against the tree and prepared to feel the cool breeze. Han Hao lay on my lap and closed his eyes, falling asleep as well. I gently stroked his face. It was the first time I looked at him like this, and I realized that Han Hao was really handsome. His looks didn't lose out to those celebrities at all. His skin was very white, and he was very good at dressing. His figure was also very good. No matter how I looked at him, I felt that he was a perfect man. Perhaps it was because he had taken care of a child for the whole morning, but he slept soundly. I was also very happy to see him sleeping soundly, and I felt that my mood was completely different. If love was that simple, then my love for Han Hao had already sprouted in my heart, but I had never admitted it. Han Hao slept for an hour before he woke up. I watched him sleep for an hour, but it didn't feel like a long time had passed. When he woke up, he got up and hugged me in his arms. He kissed me gently. I hadn't felt this kind of affection for a long time. We packed up and continued to walk around with E. There was still half of the amusement park we hadn't visited yet. More and more people came to play. After walking for a while, we arrived at a row of shooting dolls. A shop owner stood in front of his shop and said loudly, "Come and take a look. Today's shooting event has a big discount. If you hit 10 bullets in a row, you'll win the grand prize. If you hit 20 bullets in a row, you'll win the grand prize." I turned my head and glanced at his shop. The grand prize was a human-sized doll, and the grand prize was a luxurious mage meal for two. It seemed that the shop owner had spent a lot of money in order to make money. As soon as we arrived in front of his shop, the shop owner rushed in front of us and stopped us. He looked at us and said, "Hey, handsome, do you want to give your wife and child a grand prize? Your baby is so cute. Come and have a try." I knew that this was the shop owner's marketing strategy. I pulled Han Hao's shirt and asked him not to participate. Han Hao smiled and looked at me. Then he looked at the shop owner and said, "If I hit 20 bullets in a row, the grand prize will be mine, right?" The shop owner was bewildered. Then he looked at Han Hao and said, "Of course. If you can hit 20 bullets in a row, they'll all be yours." I glanced at the shop owner. His eyes were evil. At first glance, I knew there was a problem. I didn't want Han Hao to be fooled, but Han Hao just smiled at me and took out the money. I pushed E to the station and looked at Han Hao. The shop owner handed him a gun. Han Hao didn't shoot straight away. Instead, he took the gun and studied it carefully. Although it was just a normal air gun, Han Hao's movements were so professional. After checking it, Han Hao looked at the shop owner and signaled that he could start shooting. After the shop owner was ready, Han Hao held the gun and stood 1 meter behind the shooting line to shoot. This was because many players would choose to sit and shoot from the shooting line. Only Han Hao would choose to shoot from a meter away. Not only was the shop owner stunned, but I was also stunned. While I was in a daze, Han Hao had already shot 5 bullets in a row, and every one of them hit. More and more people were watching. I didn't know that Han Hao was so good at this. I became more and more nervous. Seeing the 6th and 7th shots hit, I became even more nervous. Finally, when the 10th shot hit the bullseye, I couldn't help but scream. Han Hao put down the gun and looked at me with a smile. He pointed at his face. He wanted me to kiss him. My face was red. I walked up to him and kissed him softly. At this time, the shop owner's face didn't look good. He handed the doll to Han Hao, then looked at him and asked, "Do you want to continue with the 20-shot challenge?" Han Hao nodded and said softly, "Of course. My daughter's gift is in my hands, but my wife's gift isn't in my hands yet." The shop owner gestured for him to continue shooting. Han Hao handed the doll back to me and raised the gun again to aim at the bullseye. The first 2 shots were successful, but when Han Hao hit the 13th bullet, he missed the target. The people around us sighed. I looked at Han Hao and saw that his expression had become very serious. I was worried that he would be angry. I walked up to him and said softly, "Xiao Hao, don't be angry. How about we stop fighting and let's go? Yi's gift is already in her hands." Chapter 212. At this time, the boss looked at Han Hao with a proud face and said, "How was it? Young man, you missed the target. Do you want to continue?" Looking at his expression, it was clear that he had done something. I was a bit angry. I was about to argue with him, but Han Hao stopped me. Han Hao took out 100 yuan from his pocket and handed it to the boss. Han Hao smiled and said, "Just now it was indeed my mistake. This time, it won't happen again. I still want to continue to challenge 20 consecutive shots. I also want everyone here to be my witness. If during this time someone deliberately made a mistake, I also want everyone to be my witness." Since Han Hao said this, it was clear that he already knew that the boss had done something. Many people present agreed in unison that Han Hao would be his witness. I looked at the boss and saw that his expression wasn't very good. I looked at Han Hao and was still worried about him. In fact, it didn't really matter if he ate a big meal or not. I just didn't want him to suffer this kind of grievance. Han Hao also realized that I was worried about him. He walked in front of me and gently patted my head and smiled at me. I didn't dare to give him too much pressure. I could only stand by his side and silently accompany him in my heart. Han Hao raised the gun and aimed at the bullseye. He calmed himself down and started a new round of shooting. I was very nervous. I didn't know what would happen to him. I only hoped that he would try his best. I didn't want him to be unhappy just because of me. While my thoughts were running wild, he had already shot the 10th shot. Seeing that the number of shots that went wrong was about to reach, Han Hao continued to shoot the 11th and 12th shot. Suddenly, Han Hao changed his hand and aimed with his left eye. I suddenly had a question. Han Hao wasn't left-handed. Wasn't it obvious that he was going to lose? But I was wrong. He actually hit the 13th shot. Everyone present was stunned, including the boss. Han Hao then shot the 14th shot with his left hand and hit the target again. The scene was filled with cheers. At this moment, Han Hao glanced at the boss and sneered. He switched the gun back to shooting with his right hand. Just like that, there was only 1 shot left. The surroundings suddenly became very quiet. Everyone was looking forward to the 20th shot. At this moment, Han Hao walked to the boss and said something. The boss's expression became very surprised. Han Hao walked back to his original position and beautifully shot the last bullet. The scene was filled with cheers. Only the boss was left paralyzed on the ground with an expression of disbelief. I walked to Han Hao's side and hugged him tightly. Han Hao gently stroked my hair and said softly, "Silly, I made you worry. Be good. It's over. Let's take the prize and leave." I nodded and looked at Han Hao. He smiled brightly. Han Hao walked to the boss and looked at him with a smile. The boss reluctantly handed the French meal voucher to Han Hao. Han Hao thanked the surrounding people who had helped to witness this. Then he walked to my side. He pushed Yi's cart, and I held his arm as we left the crowd. Han Hao seemed to be in a good mood. He placed the big doll on the cart so that it wouldn't take up too much space. However, my mood was very complicated. I thought that the boss seemed to be a very serious person. He definitely wouldn't let Han Hao and me off that easily. It should be because of what Han Hao had said to the boss that he didn't do anything to Han Hao. Han Hao seemed to see my nervousness. Han Hao looked at me and said softly, "Dear, what are you thinking about? Why are you so engrossed in your thoughts?" I looked at Han Hao and asked, "I'm still thinking about what just happened." "What did you say to the boss?" His expression suddenly became very surprised. What was going on? At that time, I was really scared. Han Hao looked at me and said softly, "It's very simple. The first time I shot, I felt that the first 10 shots were very smooth. By the time I shot the 11th and 12th shots, the gun was a little shaky. It was as if there was something wrong with the gun, so the first time I shot the 13th shot, I missed. After I shot the remaining 7 shots, it was obvious that I didn't have that feeling. At that time, I observed the boss. When I shot the 13th shot, his hand was in his pocket, so there must be some kind of device in there. That's why I missed. When I shot the second time, he tried to do something to that place again, but this time he made a mistake. I changed my hand and held the gun very steadily, and I got a very good result. He almost couldn't control his emotions anymore. So I walked up to him and told him that I already knew his secret. If he continued to act like this, I would expose his scheme in front of everyone, and he wouldn't be able to continue operating here anymore. When the boss heard my threat, he simply stopped trying to do anything to me. Han Hao sighed and said, "What happened was very simple. When I shot the 13th shot, I clearly felt that the first 10 shots were very smooth. So, after you changed your hand, why did you change your hand again? You changed it back and forth 2 or 3 times. I still didn't understand. Han Hao smiled and said, "Because I was just putting on a show. I haven't used both hands in a long time. Although I'm a little rusty, the results are pretty good. I'm very satisfied, so I'm in a very good mood right now." Han Hao's smile was very bright. "So you knew how to do it before? But why are you so good at it?" "Well, it's kind of my hobby. When I was 15, I started researching equipment. If I told you that I did it for work, you wouldn't believe me. But Suri and I are actually quite similar. I'm more like Xiao Kei's personal bodyguard. Although Xiao Kei and I are good friends who grew up together, we have different statuses. So, when I'm with Xiao Kei, I'll carry a gun on me. Of course, I won't let you guys find out. I also have a gun in my car, and I have a gun workshop at home. So, things like air guns are considered child's play for me." Hearing Han Hao's words, I was a little surprised. I didn't expect him to be doing something so dangerous, but I felt even more pity for him. I pitied him for always thinking about others and never himself. I looked at Han Hao's somewhat disappointed face. I hugged his arm tightly and whispered to him, "Xiao Hao, in the future, don't feel inferior because of this. In the future, you are you. You are a good man and a very responsible one at that." Chapter 213. I leaned against Han Hao's arm. My heart ached for him from the bottom of my heart. He was always thinking about other people, but he never thought about himself. Han Hao stopped and pulled me into his arms. He gently kissed my forehead and said softly, "Xiao Li, I'm content. I'm really content now. I have you and E by my side. This is the best gift that God has given me. I will definitely cherish it. So, please don't run away anymore. Please let me stay by your side and take good care of you. Okay? I will definitely make you and E happy. I reached out and hugged Han Hao. I felt really happy. When it was about 5 in the afternoon, we finally finished our trip to the amusement park. I looked at E. E was in a good mood. She was very awake the whole afternoon. It seemed that she got along well with Han Hao. In the afternoon, she dragged Han Hao to play with a lot of entertainment facilities. Han Hao didn't refuse. He happily hugged E and played with her for a long time. I looked at them from afar and felt very happy. When we got back to the car, I sat in the front passenger seat and felt very tired. I glanced at Han Hao, and he let out a long breath. It seemed that he was also very tired. However, E was very energetic in the child's seat. She suddenly looked at Han Hao and shouted, "Daddy hug! Daddy hug!" I looked at Han Hao with a black face. I didn't have to guess. He must have taught her. Han Hao looked at me and smiled awkwardly. I looked at him and asked softly, "Did you teach her?" I turned to look at E. She was still shouting loudly for her daddy to hug her. Han Hao didn't have a choice. He got out of the car and opened the door to carry E out of the child's seat. Then he looked at me and said softly, "Xiao Li, E wants me to carry her. I can't drive. I'll have to trouble you to drive back." I nodded and sat in the driver's seat. Han Hao carried E and sat in the front passenger seat. I turned to look at E. E stopped making a fuss and hugged Han Hao's neck tightly. That coquettish look was too much like a daughter acting coquettishly with her father. I looked at Han Hao with disdain. Han Hao smiled and said to me, "No choice. E is like me." I didn't know what to do with his nonsensical answer. However, I wasn't angry. I was happy that E liked him. Since Han Hao treated E like her father, then he could do whatever he wanted. We started driving back because I received a call from my mother saying that the Red Baron, Suri, and Xinyao were going to eat at home today. Han Hao and I didn't eat outside. The road back was smooth and I didn't feel tired driving. On the other hand, Han Hao was playing with E the whole time. E obviously didn't feel tired even after sleeping. She didn't know how tired her father Han Hao was. I felt sorry for him. I looked at E with a serious expression and said, "E, you're not being good right now. Look at how tired your Uncle Han Hao is. Be good, let him sleep for a while." E suddenly looked at me seriously and said loudly, "It's Daddy. It's Daddy." I didn't think that a title would make her so serious. I had no choice but to change my words and say, all right. It's Han Hao's Daddy. Be good and let Daddy rest for a while. E, go back to the back seat and be good." E didn't listen to me. She hugged Han Hao's neck tightly and leaned on his shoulder. She looked at me with a wronged expression. It was as if I had bullied her and she was about to cry. Han Hao looked at E and felt sorry for her. He whispered to me, "Just let E play with me. I'm fine. I'm also very willing to play with E." He gently stroked E's hair. The two of them looked at me lovingly. I didn't know what to say in response. I could only choose to silently agree. The drive back was quite long. When we were about 2/3 of the way home, I turned my head to look. Han Hao had fallen asleep with E in his arms. E was still sleeping soundly with Han Hao in her arms. Han Hao was also sleeping soundly with E in his arms. I increased the temperature in the car a little, afraid that the two of them would get cold. Then I quietly drove the car, but I was very happy. Finally, we arrived at the house. I stopped the car, and the housekeeper came out of the house. I unloaded the things in the car first, then walked to the front passenger seat and gently woke Han Hao up. E was still asleep. Han Hao's appearance, when he woke up, was very cute. What moved me was that the first thing he saw when he woke up was E. When he saw that E was still sleeping soundly, his expression became very happy. I woke him up. He hugged E, and I held his arm as we walked into the living room. After we entered the living room, I saw that everyone was there. Xinyao saw me from afar and immediately rushed over. She saw how intimate Han, Hao and I were, and the lewd smile on her face made me blush. Xinyao pulled me to the side and whispered, "Io, so sweet. Looks like it's done." I whispered in her ear, "Yeah, I promised him that I'll be with him properly." Xinyao suddenly hugged me and said, "Yep, yep. Suri and I want the two of you to be happy. It's because we want to see the results of the two of you that we came here to scrounge off your meal." I looked at her with a dark expression. "It's because the two of you are too lazy and don't want to do it. Can't you find a better reason?" After hearing my words, Xinyao could only laugh. I turned my head to look at Suri and Han Hao. The two of them were chatting happily. I didn't know when Yi had woken up, but the Red Baron was playing with her. We chatted for a while before Mother called us for dinner. We went to the dining room and saw a sumptuous meal on the table. It looked like Mother had prepared it for a long time. After everyone sat down, Han Hao sat across from me. Father sat down and we could start eating. But at that moment, Yi suddenly became unhappy. She turned her head to look at me and shouted, "I want Daddy to carry me. I want Daddy." Of course I knew who Yi's daddy was. I suddenly felt awkward and didn't know what to do. Xinyao was the first to cry out. She looked at me and shouted, "Wow, Yi changed your mind so quickly. Yi, tell Auntie if the daddy you're talking about is the one sitting across from you." Yi nodded seriously. She turned her head and looked at Han Hao as if she was about to cry. She shouted, "Yi wants Daddy. Yi wants Daddy to carry her." Han Hao walked to my side and took Yi from my arms. Only then did Yi calm down. She hugged Han Hao's neck and gently wiped the corners of her eyes. It looked like she was really crying. Chapter 214. At this moment, my mother looked at me and asked softly, "What's going on with Xiaoli?" I looked at my mother, trying to think of how to phrase my words. Han Hao looked at my mother and said, "Auntie, don't ask Xiaoli anymore. I won't hide it from you anymore. Actually, I've liked Xiaoli for a long time. Before she married the Duanmuke, I already liked her. When she was preparing to divorce the Duanmuke, I thought that I would be able to get Xiaoli, but she rejected me at the time. Now I've gotten her, and Yi has accepted me. When we went out to play today, I liked Yi too much and thought that she needed a father, so I took the liberty of teaching Yi to call me Daddy. I'm sorry, but this was my decision, so please don't blame Xiaoli." Everyone suddenly fell silent. I suddenly felt a little awkward. At this moment, my father looked at me seriously and said, "Xiaoli, is what Xiao Hao said true?" I suddenly felt a little nervous. I sighed and looked at my father and said loudly, "Dad, yes, Xiao Hao is right. I did agree to his proposal, and Yi likes him a lot. I'm willing to let him be Yi's father. Father, if there's anything wrong, please tell me. Don't blame Xiao Hao. It's not wrong for us to like him." My mother and father looked at each other. My mother suddenly smiled and said, "Silly girl, we want you to be happy. How could we blame you?" I was stunned. I looked at my mother and said softly, "Mom, what do you mean?" My father coughed twice. He looked at me and said softly, Good. Xiao Hao is a good kid. Don't bully him. Take care of Yi. If you really can't take care of her, tell us. The family will definitely support you." My eyes were a little wet. I stood up and looked at my father and mother. "Thank you, Dad, Mom. Thank you." I turned my head to look at Han Hao. He smiled at me, and I smiled back at him. Perseverance is victory. Everything is worth it. After dinner, my parents left. They said that they had an appointment to attend a tea party at a friend's house. There were only a few young people left in the house. Xinyao and Suri were playing cards with the Red Baron on the sofa. Han Hao and I were playing with Yi. Yi really liked to play with Han Hao. The two of them had a lot of fun. Time passed quickly. We chatted for a long time. After a while, Suri and Xinyao left. After sending them off, we returned to the living room. My parents had also returned. Han Hao looked at the time and put Yi in my arms. He said to my father, "Uncle, Auntie, it's getting late. I should go back." After hearing Han Hao say that, E actually couldn't take it anymore. She burst into tears and tried to throw herself at Han Hao for my arms. I couldn't stop her. No matter how I tried to persuade her, E wouldn't listen. She kept crying. I thought she was pretending, but she was really crying. Soon, her face was covered in tears and snot. I tried to persuade her and wipe her face, but I didn't know how to comfort her. My parents looked at E and their hearts ached. My father took E from my arms and gently patted her back. He said to her, "My precious E, tell Grandpa, why are you crying so hard?" E wiped her tears and cried, I want Pa, Daddy. E wants Daddy." Hearing E say that, we all understood what she meant. At this time, my mother looked at my father and said softly, "Let our heir stay." My father, of course, felt sorry for E. He thought for a moment and looked at Han Hao. "How, heir, is there anything you need? If there's nothing, then stay. I rarely see E cry so hard. She probably doesn't want to leave you. So stay. If E is happy, then we are all happy." At this time, Han Hao rubbed his head awkwardly. Is that appropriate? Her mother smiled and said, "What's wrong with that? I'll ask the nanny to find you a change of clothes and toiletries. You can stay here tonight. It's rare that my precious granddaughter likes you so much, so you should accompany her." "Thank you, Auntie. Thank you, Uncle." After Han Hao said that, his parents smiled and left. At this time, the Red Baron also stood up. She looked at us and said, "All right, I'm going back to my room to read. In front of the baby, the two of you should control yourselves. If you really can't, then send E to my room. Remember to take safety precautions. Of course, it's fine if you don't do it. I don't think E would mind having a little brother or sister." With that, the Red Baron left with a smirk, leaving Han Hao and I in a mess in the living room. In the end, I went to the guest rooms on the second and first floor to check one by one. As I expected, all the rooms were closed and couldn't be opened at all. I could only give up. I thought about letting Han Hao and E sleep in my room while I squeezed in with the Red Baron for the whole night. In the end, when I knocked on the Red Baron's door, the Red Baron actually told me that she had a cold and wasn't feeling well. She bluntly rejected me. It seemed that they were hinting that I would have to spend the night in the same room as Han Hao. Although it was very awkward, I still accepted the reality. When I returned to the bedroom, I only saw E playing happily in the children's playground that I had arranged for her. The sound of running water came from the bathroom. It seemed that Han Hao was taking a shower. He probably realized that there were no other rooms in the house that he could enter other than my room. I must have a good talk with them tomorrow morning. I walked to E's side and played with her toys. E looked at me and said in a childish voice, "Daddy is taking a shower. He asked us to wait for him." My face darkened. How did this child know what I was thinking? Needless to say, it was definitely Han Hao who taught her. If she continued to be so smart, I wouldn't be able to control her anymore. Not long after, the bathroom door opened and Han Hao walked out. I turned to look at him. Luckily, he was wearing pajamas. I thought that he would come out completely naked. Han Hao looked at me and smiled. He walked over and picked E up. He skillfully helped E change into her pajamas. Chapter 215. Han Hao carried E to the bed. He patted her gently as he told her a story. E was well behaved. She laid in Han Hao's arms and closed her eyes. Han Hao glanced at me and gestured for me to quickly wash up. I nodded and took out a change of clothes from the wardrobe and walked into the bathroom. Actually, my heart was still very complicated. Although I had already agreed to be Han Hao's girlfriend, it wasn't good for us to sleep together right after we decided to be together. After taking a shower, I stood naked in front of the mirror. I carefully studied my reflection in the mirror. Although I had given birth to E, my figure hadn't gone out of shape. I had taken good care of myself. I didn't look like a mother anymore. I put on my pajamas and stood at the bathroom door. I sighed and decided to open the door and walk out. I'd better let nature take its course. I pushed the door open and walked out of the bathroom. Han Hao was still lying on the bed with E in his arms. I glanced at E and saw that she had already fallen asleep. Han Hao was still lying next to E and gently patting her. I walked over, and afraid that I would wake E up, I quietly climbed onto the bed. Actually, I never let E sleep next to me because I was afraid that I would crush her if I slept too deeply. I always carried her to her own cradle to sleep. But seeing Han Hao taking care of E so seriously, I was quite happy. Han Hao raised his head and looked at me with a smile. I quietly lay next to E and reached out to touch her forehead. Luckily, she wasn't sweating and the temperature in the room was just right. Han Hao and I lay next to E. I didn't know if he had fallen asleep, but I didn't feel sleepy at all. I didn't know how much time had passed, but Han Hao whispered to me, "Shaoli, are you asleep?" "I'm not. I don't know why, but I can't sleep." Indeed, I couldn't sleep either. Then Han Hao continued, "I'll hug you to sleep. That way, you should be able to sleep." I was stunned and my face turned red. The light in the room was dim, so he probably couldn't see my embarrassed expression. "That's not a good idea." My voice was a little shaky. Of course, I didn't know how to answer him. "It's okay. Come on, I'll carry you here, and I'll carry you here. We won't delay each other. You've been tired all day, you can't not sleep. Come on, lie on my side." Han Hao's words were very gentle, but I still felt that it was inappropriate. It wasn't that I didn't want anything to happen between us because of my pride. It was just that E was still around. Although she was still young, it wasn't appropriate to do it in front of a child. I thought for a moment and then said to him, "Forget it. I can sleep. You should sleep too. You are more tired than I am today. Don't worry, nothing will happen between us. Now is not the time. When the opportunity arises, you won't be able to escape. I just want to hug you to sleep quietly. Don't think of me as a bad person, okay?" Obviously, Han Hao had realized what I was thinking. Hearing him say that, my heart calmed down. I smiled and said to him, "Okay." Then, I crawled to his other side and lay in his arms. Just like that, Han Hao hugged E with one arm and me with the other. The three of us lay quietly like that. Strangely enough, I felt sleepy lying in Han Hao's arms. I lay on his chest and listened to his heartbeat. Gradually, I fell asleep. When I woke up, it was already the next morning. I looked at the time in a daze. It was only 5 in the morning. I turned my head to look at Han Hao. He was gone, and so was E. I instantly woke up. Just as I was about to get dressed and get out of bed, Han Hao walked out of the bathroom with E in his arms. I let out a long breath and looked at him. "So you brought E to the bathroom. You scared me." Han Hao looked at me and said, "Did I wake you up?" E just woke up and wanted to go to the bathroom. She woke me up, so I took her to the bathroom. I didn't expect you to wake up too. Go back to sleep. It's still early. Then, Han Hao carried E to her little bed. He stood by the bed and coaxed her for a while. E fell asleep. Then, Han Hao climbed onto the bed and lay down. He gestured for me to lie down too. I hesitated for a moment, but still lay down next to him. Han Hao turned around and hugged me. I suddenly felt nervous, and my face was a little red. Han Hao smiled and gently stroked my hair. He whispered to me, "Shaoli, don't be nervous. I told you that nothing will happen between us. Let me hug you for a while. It's rare that I have this free time to hug you, you know? Ever since the last time you stayed at my house, I was even more determined that I will definitely have the opportunity to give you happiness. So now that I'm hugging you like this, I feel very happy. It's so rare that you're finally my woman." I leaned into Han Hao's embrace and whispered, "Aren't I right by your side? Don't worry, I won't leave you." I hugged Han Hao tightly. This feeling of comfort made me very happy. Han Hao cupped my face and gently kissed my forehead. He looked at me and whispered, "Shaoli, marry me. Marry me, okay?" I was stunned by Han Hao's sudden proposal. I thought for a moment. Just as I was about to say something to Han Hao suddenly cupped my face and kissed my lips. This gentle kiss made me not know what to do. Unknowingly, I fell into his embrace. The burning sensation in my body grew stronger and stronger. Han Hao hugged me tighter and tighter. Unconsciously, my body's reaction made me a little shy. Han Hao suddenly stopped. He looked at my blushing face and smiled. Aya, your mouth says no, but your body is very honest. I turned my head and didn't dare to look at Han Hao. I closed my eyes and whispered, Xiao Hao, you've changed. You weren't like this before. Why have you become so perverted now? Han Hao smiled. He gently stroked my hair and said, Because I like you. Han Hao's words made me speechless. I could only quietly lean against his chest and pretend that I didn't understand anything. I pretended that I didn't understand anything. Just like that, Han Hao hugged me and went back to sleep. We were originally sleeping well, but we were woken up by Yi again. But there was no other way. When I got up and looked at the time, it was already 9 o'clock. Yi must be starving. Han Hao got up faster than me. He quickly put on his clothes and washed up. Then he took Yi downstairs. I now trusted him to take care of the child, so I didn't get lazy. After washing up, I began to tidy up the bedroom. After tidying up, I went downstairs. The whole family had finished breakfast and gone out to do some work. Only I was left. Han Hao was waiting for me in the dining room with Yi in his arms. Because there were too many, we decided to send them back first. After we sent them back, we came back and passed by the children's clothing store. Han Hao's interest was piqued and he started picking clothes for Yi. I was a little tired. I sat on the sofa in the store and watched the father and son pick out clothes. Yi didn't feel tired at all. Every time he picked out an outfit, Han Hao would personally help her put it on and then review it himself. If he felt it was good, he would let me take a look. If I felt it was average, he would immediately pass it off. After almost an hour, he actually picked out no less than 20 sets of clothes and shoes for Yi. Each set of clothes had a different pair of shoes. I thought it was very extravagant, but Han Hao didn't think so. He thought it was worth it because it was for Yi. After we finished shopping at the children's clothing store, it was time for lunch. We took the French meal coupon that Han Hao won from the shooting last time and went to the store. The owner didn't lie to me. The coupon was usable. We picked a seat by the window and sat down, waiting for the food to be served. Actually, I hadn't shopped enough. I was just tired. After we finished eating, we could go shopping again. Han Hao put Yi down. I looked at his t-shirt and saw that it was soaked with sweat. I looked at him and said, Xiao Hao, your clothes are all wet. Later, I'll take you to buy a new one to change into. Han Hao looked down and smiled at me. I just noticed. It's fine, I'm just carrying Yi on my back. It's fine, I'll have to carry it on my back again and change into a new one. But I'll have to buy you a few new sets of clothes. Ever since you got pregnant, you probably haven't had time to dress yourself up. You've given all your energy to Yi. You don't cherish yourself, but I have to cherish you. Later, go pick a few sets of clothes that you like and I'll pay for them. Don't fight with me, because you're my woman. Han Hao smiled and stroked my hair. I'm not like before anymore. I don't have to go out to meet other people, and I don't have to dress myself up all the time. I just have to take care of Yi. Now, I have to take care of you. That's enough. I don't want to care about other things. You see, ever since I came back, I'm not allowed to do Red Minghue's work anymore. I'm quite free. That's because Uncle wants you to rest well. Everyone knows how good you are at work. Don't even think about slacking off, silly. I don't want you to be so tired. It's just that right now, I don't earn as much as you do. Han Hao sighed. I looked at Han Hao. I understood what he meant. I smiled and said to him, Darling, you earned that money with your own ability. But what about me? You can say that I'm supported by my family. I can't compare to you. In the future, I'll find a job that relies on my own effort to earn money. That way, I can share your burden. What do you think? Han Hao shook his head. He looked at me and said, How could I bear to let you work so hard? Don't worry, your husband is very capable. I'll definitely take good care of you and the baby. Don't worry. Just as Han, Hao and I were chatting, the sound of an ear-piercing quarrel came from the entrance of the restaurant. I looked in the direction of the sound and saw a fashionably dressed woman standing there with her hands on her waist. She was pointing at the greeter at the entrance and cursing. Her appearance and dress didn't look out of place at all. I hated this kind of behavior from the bottom of my heart. Most of the people who could dine in this kind of high-end restaurant were people of high status. But it was the first time I saw someone who had no manners like this. But then, I saw a person who I would never forget for the rest of my life. Chapter 217. That woman was still arguing fiercely with the waiter, and the surrounding customers who came to eat also felt that it was disturbing. Right at this moment, the restaurant's door was pushed open, and a man entered. It was a face that I would never forget. It was none other than Duan Muke, who I hadn't seen for a long time. Seeing him again, I was stunned. He had changed a lot, and his clothes weren't as fashionable as before. Instead, he gave off a decadent aura. Moreover, Duan Muke had lost a lot of weight. If I used an idiom to describe him, he would be dispirited and listless. However, this couldn't hide his handsome face. But he couldn't hide his handsome face. Hao looked at me in a daze. "Shaoli, what's wrong?" he asked softly. "What are you looking at?" He followed my gaze and saw Duanmu, Quebec. He was stunned for a moment. "Shaoli," he said softly. "Don't look at him. Turn around and look at me, okay?" I ignored Hao's words and turned my head to look at Duan Muke and the woman. The woman was still arguing with the waiter, but Duan Muke just stood next to her, not saying a word. Just as I was lost in my thoughts, Hao suddenly said loudly, "Shaoli," I said, "don't look at him." I turned to look at Hao. It was the first time I had seen him so angry. I suddenly felt nervous. I nodded and stopped looking at Duan Muke and the woman. The food was served, and we started eating. However, I wasn't in the mood to enjoy the food. Hao watched my every move. "Honey, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to talk to you like that. I didn't mean to. I just didn't want you to be in a bad mood after seeing him with another woman." I nodded and said to Hao, "I understand how you feel. I'm not angry." I sighed. "That woman, is she Xiaokei's fiancée?" Hao looked at me and nodded solemnly. I smiled coldly and looked up at Hao. He was feeding E. I thought to myself, with such a good man who loves me and E, why should I care about anything else? I looked at Hao and smiled. "All right, I'm fine. I'm fine. You're enough for me." I smiled at Hao and continued eating. Hao and I chatted about the places we should go next. He offered to buy me some clothes, and I gladly accepted. I also told him that I would pick some clothes for him. At that moment, the woman's voice sounded in my ear again. I really didn't want to look at her, so I lowered my head and continued eating. I felt that the voice was getting closer and closer, and the content of their conversation was getting clearer. I heard the woman say, "Just now, that disgusting waiter was so mean to me. Why didn't you say anything? Could it be that you couldn't hear me?" But I didn't hear Duan Muke's voice. The woman continued to shout, "Other people are saying how outstanding you are. Bah, you're a coward. You can't even stand up for me for such a small matter. How could I be so blind to like you?" The woman's words were really vicious. Duan Muke probably couldn't bear to listen to them. "Can you not talk anymore?" I heard Duan Muke's deep voice. Listening to his tone, I could feel that he was restraining himself, not exploding. This wasn't like Duan Muke's character at all. But I didn't know why he had changed so much. At that moment, a pa sound was heard. We all raised our heads. The woman had raised her hand and slapped Duan Muke's face. At that time, I was shocked. Right next to my table, the woman looked around. Then she shouted at us, "What are you looking at? Eat your food." We lowered our heads again, not knowing what would happen next. The woman looked at Duan Muke and shouted, "This is a reward for the way you spoke to me. Don't go too far. Don't you know what kind of status you have now? You still dare to yell at me. Do you really think you're the same person as before? I'm leaving. You can be a shrew by yourself here. When Duanmuke said these words, it was clear that he was already extremely angry. The woman yelled, "You." After saying that, she threw her bag onto our dining table, right into the bowl of soup. The soup splashed everywhere. Han, Hao, E, and I didn't manage to dodge it, so the soup splashed all over our clothes. E was probably shocked because she burst into tears. Han Hao quickly took out a tissue and wiped the parts of E's body that had been splashed. I was really angry. If it was just directed at me, it would have been fine. But now that E was involved, I couldn't hold it in any longer. I stood up and walked over to the woman. I looked at her and said loudly, "What are you doing? Can't you see we're eating here? It's fine if you quarrel next to our table, but you threw things on our table. Can't you see we have a child here? What if you hurt the child? Can you afford to take responsibility?" The woman looked me up and down. Then, with a look of disdain, she said, "Where did this village girl come from? I just threw things. What can you do about it? Does your family own this restaurant? I can do whatever I want. What can you do about it?" I turned to look at Han Hao and said softly, "Xiao Hao, take E and leave. Remember to call the police." The woman put her hands on her hips and looked at me. She said loudly, "I'll see who dares to call the police. You can try." The woman's unforgiving attitude made me feel disgusted. Then, someone patted my shoulder from behind. I turned my head and saw Duanmu, Quebec. He looked at me in disbelief and said, "Shaoli? You're Shaoli?" Only then did I realize that I had exposed myself in front of Duanmu, Quebec. I couldn't care less. I looked at him and said softly, "Hurry up and take her away." Then I sat down again and tidied up my things. I looked at Han Hao and said, "Xiao, let's go. We'll eat somewhere else. This place is too messy. It's not suitable to take E with us." Then I stood up and prepared to leave. Unexpectedly, the woman stopped me. She looked at me with contempt and said, "Yo, what's wrong? You want to run away after standing up for me? Weren't you yelling at me so fiercely just now? Why don't you have any confidence now?" Duanmuke walked in front of me. He took the woman's hand and said, "Let's go. You're already interrupting their meal. Hurry up and leave. We'll eat somewhere else." Chapter 218. The woman shook off Duanmuke's hand. She looked at me fiercely and said, "I'm not leaving. I want to see what this woman can do to me. I'm going to throw it." Then she picked up the bag that had fallen into the soup and slammed it on our table again. This time, it was fortunate that Han Hao caught E in time, so the soup didn't splash on E's body. On the other hand, Han Hao's back was splashed with soup, and E cried even harder. The surrounding customers who came to eat also stopped and looked at us. The restaurant's waiter quickly brought a towel and started to treat Han Hao and E. He also kept apologizing to us. I was very angry. I looked at the woman and said angrily, "Please apologize to him and the child." The woman smiled coldly and looked at me. "Apologize? Stop dreaming. I'm telling you, I've never apologized to anyone in my life. Don't even think about it." Clenching my fists tightly, I looked at the woman and said word by word, "Dao, apologize." At this time, Han Hao stood up with E in his arms. He looked at me and said softly, "Honey, don't be like this." Luckily, it didn't splash E's eyes. It's not a big deal. She's probably just scared. Let's just forget about this. It's not good to make things worse. Look at E crying so hard. Let's take E out to play and distract her. It's not good for a child to cry too much. I calmed down for a while. I looked at Han Hao and then at E, who was lying in Han Hao's arms and crying her heart out. I thought about it and decided to swallow my anger. I picked up the things and looked at Han Hao. "Let's go." I took E from Han Hao's arms. Han Hao walked past the woman with the pile of clothes he bought for E. Before he took 2 steps, I heard the woman gloating behind him. "See? A coward is a coward. If you don't have money, capital, or power, don't come to such a high-end restaurant to eat. Don't you think it's embarrassing? She wants to quarrel, but she can't win. She's only fit to give birth to a child and be a housewife at home. That man is really blind. Following such a trash. He's not ashamed at all. He even dares to bring her out? Hearing the woman's words, I couldn't hold it in any longer. I handed it to Han Hao. I turned around and quickly walked in front of the woman. I reached out my hand and slapped her face. She was stunned for a moment. After she reacted, she covered her face and shouted at me, "You bitch! How dare you hit me?" After saying that, she reached out to hit me with her backhand, but I cleverly dodged it. Then, I slapped her backhand again. Just like this, the two of us wrestled together. But she was just a rich second generation after all. How could she compare with me? During the 2 years she spent in the United States with Red Baron, she also taught me some basic close combat techniques. Sure enough, I used it today. After a few moves, she was completely knocked to the ground by me. The arrogance she had just now was completely gone. She was just lying on the ground in a sorry state. She glared at me. "Who the hell are you? Just you wait. I won't let you go." I looked at him with an expressionless face. "It seems like I haven't hit you enough. I just punched you a few times because you were being unreasonable and hurt my people. You made my baby cry. That's fine. If something really happened, I definitely wouldn't let you go. Also, you don't need to know who I am. Your fiancé will tell you who I am." After saying that, I glanced at Duanmu, Quebec. He just looked at me with a solemn expression and didn't say a word. I turned around and walked to Han Hao's side. I carried E over and then held onto Han Hao's arm as we left the restaurant. I didn't look at Duanmu K's eyes. I didn't want to know what kind of expression he would have. Right now, I only needed to accompany Han Hao and E. I could only sympathize with him for having such a fiancé. It turned out that he could also completely forget the person he once loved. Walking out of the restaurant, Han Hao and I found a secluded place to change out of E's dirty clothes. It just so happened that we had bought new clothes for her, so she put them on. After putting on the new clothes, E stopped crying and making a fuss. Han Hao also bought her a lollipop, which made her even happier. When we left the restaurant, it just so happened that we were wearing men's clothes. We randomly found a store to deal with Han Hao's clothes and changed into the new clothes. After paying the bill, Han Hao looked at me. He didn't have time to change into the new clothes and was still wearing the dress that had been dirtied by that woman. Han Hao walked to my side and looked at me with a pained expression. "Idiot, why did you suddenly attack just now? I was holding E and couldn't stop you." I shook my head and looked at Han Hao. "This kind of woman, you can't reason with her. Only violence can solve problems." Han Hao smiled. "I understand that. But dear, in front of E, being so violent to your beautiful and gentle mother isn't very good, is it? Right? Fortunately, I kept E's face to me, so she didn't see your manly side. How are you going to thank me?" I nodded thoughtfully and said to Han Hao, "Oh, right. You're so thoughtful. I knew you were the best." I hugged Han Hao and gently kissed his face. At this moment, the waitress walked over. She smiled at us and said, "The two of you have such a good relationship. It's rare to see a married couple with a baby who is still so loving. Sir, these are the clothes you just changed into. We've already packed them for you." Han Hao and I quickly separated. Han Hao smiled and said to the waitress, "Thank you. All right. I would like to ask, which floor are the women's clothes on? My wife's clothes were accidentally dirted, so I have to quickly buy a new set for her to change into." The waitress told us where the women's clothes were, and Han Hao pulled me out of the store. As soon as we walked out of the store, we saw Duanmu K leaning against the opposite wall. He was looking at us, obviously waiting for us. Han Hao and I looked at each other and then walked over. Duanmu K looked at us and then at E, who was in Han Hao's arms. He suddenly became silent. Han Hao could tell what Duanmu K was thinking. In a soft voice he asked, "Xiao K, why are you here?" Duanmu K came back to his senses. He looked at Han, Hao and then at me. Xiao Li, you came back to China. When did you come back? I looked at Duanmu K and nodded. In a soft voice I said, yes, I came back to China a while ago. I didn't expect to meet you here. Your fiancée is very beautiful, but her temper is a bit bad. Duanmu K smiled bitterly. He looked at Yi and said in a soft voice, this baby is yours and Han Hao's, right? It's so cute. I looked at Duanmu K's eyes and saw a trace of sadness. Chapter 219. Han Hao smiled. He hugged Yi and looked at Duanmu, Quebec, be good, Yi. This is Uncle Duanmu. Come and say hi. Yi turned her head and glanced at Duanmu, Quebec. Then she turned her head and lay in Han Hao's arms, no longer looking at him. It was very awkward. Han Hao smiled at Duanmu K and said, Xiao K, don't mind her. Yi is a bit shy. Maybe she's not familiar with you. Duanmu K smiled and looked at me. It's okay. It's nice to see you guys so loving. I envy you guys. I just looked at Duanmu K and didn't say anything. I really didn't know what to say. The three of us just stood there facing each other. The atmosphere was very awkward. Maybe everyone had something on their minds and didn't want to show it. Yi lifted her head from Han Hao's arms. She looked at Han Hao and shouted, Daddy, Daddy. Han Hao gently patted Yi's back and said softly, be good. Daddy's here. What's wrong, baby? Yi turned her head and pointed at my clothes. Mommy's clothes are dirty. Daddy bought them for her. Yi heard Han Hao say that he wanted to buy clothes for me. It was rare for her to remember. Han Hao looked at me and realized that I was the only one of us who hadn't changed. He turned to Duanmu K and said, Xiao K, I'm sorry. I have to take Xiao Li to buy clothes. Yi kept saying that she wanted to go, so I couldn't refuse. Duanmu K nodded and looked at us. I'm sorry. I apologize on her behalf for interrupting your lunch. I'll treat you guys to a meal when I have the chance. You guys go shopping first. I'm going back too. With that, Duanmu K waved at us and left. I watched Duanmu K's back as he left. My feelings were very complicated. It was hard to imagine that the once wanton and arrogant Duanmu K would become so tolerant. I didn't know if this was a good thing for him to train himself, or if it had restrained his nature. It made me feel uneasy. At this moment, Han Hao put his arm around my shoulder and whispered to me, Darling, don't think too much. Little K will be fine. The path he's walking now is his own choice. Don't think too much about it. He'll definitely be fine. Let's go. Yi ordered me to take you to buy clothes. Let's go. I want to buy beautiful clothes for my wife. With that, Han Hao took my hand and carried Yi's clothes to the women's clothing store. Because my style was fixed, the brands I bought were also fixed. I found a store that I often bought clothes from. As soon as we entered the store, I didn't even have time to pick out clothes before Han Hao put the things on the counter and began to pick out clothes for me. I shook my head helplessly and sat down on the sofa. Han Hao, on the other hand, seemed to be very happy. He also seemed to be doing the same. Just then, a waitress came over and handed me a cup of coffee. She smiled and asked, The gentleman and the baby over there picking out clothes. Are they your husband and child? I turned my head and looked over. Han Hao took out an outfit for Yi to look at. Yi's little head shook like a rattle drum. Han Hao put the outfit back on the rack and began to pick out other clothes. I nodded and said to the waitress, Yes, they are. My husband and my child. The waitress looked at them again and smiled at me. Your husband and your child have good taste. The clothes they picked out are perfect for you. Miss, you must be very happy to have such a caring husband and a cute child. I smiled at the waitress and said, Thank you. It was as she said. I was very happy to have such a caring husband and such a cute child. As my thoughts wandered, Han Hao came over with a large pile of clothes. He sat down next to me and hugged Yi. Darling, I've picked out so many clothes. Do you want to try them on? I've already asked the waitress to find clothes for you according to your size. Take a look, and if you like them, we'll buy them all. I looked at the clothes. There was a sharp contrast. The ladylike, light-colored clothes had been picked out for me by Weld Good Liking. The brighter, more fashionable clothes had been picked out for me by E. Perhaps it was because she had been with Xinyao for a long time, but E's sense of beauty had skyrocketed. I was afraid that she wouldn't like the clothes I picked out for her in the future. I thought for a moment. Looking at the table full of clothes, I said to Han, "How? Let's buy them all. You and E pick these out with great care. It's such a rare gift, I can't bear to turn it down, okay?" I reached into the pile and took out a simple but elegant dress. "Let me change out of this first," I said to Han Hao. Then I turned and walked into the changing room. By the time I was done changing, Han Hao had already paid the bill. There were a dozen more shopping bags. Fortunately, the waitress was very nice to us. She helped us carry a lot of shopping bags to the parking lot. Of course, Han Hao also tipped her accordingly. Then we left the mall and headed back home. Overall, I was very satisfied with today's date. E might have been exhausted, because she slept soundly in my arms on the way home. Han Hao drove as slowly as possible, afraid that he would wake E up. When we arrived home, I carried E to the bedroom first. After putting her to sleep, I went downstairs. The housekeeper had already helped Han Hao bring all the things to the living room. He had bought quite a lot, and the coffee table was full. I asked the housekeeper to help me tidy up the things. I happened to hear that dinner was being prepared at home, so I asked Han how to take a break so that we could eat together. Father hadn't returned yet because of some matters at the club. Mother and the Red Baron were still at home, so we sat in the living room and chatted. Not long after we sat down, Han Hao's phone rang. He walked to the living room door to answer the call. After a few simple words, he hung up. Then he walked over to my side and sat down. He looked at me and then at my mother. "Auntie, I have to go. I just received a call from a club. There's an urgent meeting later, so I have to go now." "Huh. Why don't you go after dinner? It won't make much of a difference. You've been busy all day and didn't even have a good lunch. There's a lot of good food at home, so why don't you eat a little before you go?" I said softly as I tugged on Han Hao's sleeve. Han Hao turned his head and gently stroked my hair. "No, it's okay. The club seems to be in a hurry, so I'd better hurry back." Han Hao looked at my mother. "Auntie, I'll go first. I'll come see you and Uncle when I'm done." Then Han Hao stood up and prepared to leave. Chapter 220. Mom, I'm going to send him off. With that, I took Han Hao's arm and walked out of the living room. As we walked in the courtyard, I suddenly recalled the first time he sent me home, and I walked him out of the courtyard. I looked at Han Hao. He was still as handsome as before. I said softly, "Xiao Hao, do you remember the first time I sent you out of my house?" "Of course I do. Actually, when I saw you for the first time at Shallow Bar, I was already attracted to you. You were different from other women. Although I was sitting in the same booth with Xiao Kei, among so many people, I could tell at first glance that you were cold glaze. You were like a clear stream in the murky air. I couldn't help but want to get to know you better. Although I knew that your father and my father were friends, you didn't know about my existence. It wasn't good for me to appear in front of you out of the blue, so I tried to strike up a conversation with you. Now that I think about it, it's just like what happened not too long ago. Now that you're mine, I'm very satisfied." Han Hao stood in front of me. He reached out and pulled me into his arms. He said softly, "Shaoli, I might not be able to accompany you today. I just received a call from the Secretariat. There seems to be a problem with the company's internal funds. It looks like there's been a lot of trouble recently, so I'll be very busy for the next few days. Maybe I won't have much time to accompany you. Don't be angry. You have to explain to E for me. She likes to tug on adults' clothes when she sleeps. If she can't, you can put your clothes next to her. Maybe she doesn't feel safe. When I'm done with my work, I'll come back to accompany you and E. Oh, right, I bought a villa in the south of the city, and it's already been renovated. When everything is done, I can formally propose to you and let you marry me and become my real woman. Okay?" Han Hao gently kissed my forehead. I took the opportunity to hug Han Hao's waist. I know. And I will wait for you to come back. Don't work too hard. Your health is important. You're not alone now. Take care of yourself. I leaned into Han Hao's arms. Although I was reluctant to part with him, a man should still prioritize his career, so I couldn't be soft-hearted and delay his work. After I reluctantly parted with Han Hao, he drove back. At the same time, I bumped into Suri and Xin Yao at the door. I was already used to it. Xin Yao looked at Han Hao's car and asked me, "Sister-in-law, did Brother Han Hao just leave?" I nodded and said, Yep. He said there was something he needed to take care of at the club, so he left. You two are here to freeload again, right? You really came at the right time. Go on in. Ma prepared a lot of good food tonight, enough for you to eat. I looked at them with disdain. At this time, Xin Yao threw herself into my arms and said coquettishly, "You're so annoying. I didn't come here to freeload. I have something to talk to you about." Huh? What is it? I looked at Xin Yao with a puzzled expression. Let's go in first. We'll talk while we eat. After saying that, I was pushed into the living room by Xin Yao. It just so happened that it was time for dinner. All of us went to the dining room. Because Father hadn't come back yet, Mother personally brought a bento to Father. Tonight, only the four of us were left to have dinner together. Looking at the table full of food, we couldn't help but eat together. At this time, I looked at Xin Yao and asked, "Silly girl, just now at the door, you said you had something to talk to me about. What is it? Why are you being so secretive?" At this time, Xin Yao looked at me and said, "Sister-in-law, you still don't know? Next week is Han Hao's birthday. You know his character. He's always been low-key. I was thinking about whether or not we should hold a birthday party for him. If Uncle and Auntie agree, we can hold it at your house. If you can't, then we can hold it at my house. It doesn't matter. The important thing is that we have to start planning it now, and there isn't much time left." I suddenly reacted and said in a daze, "What? Xiao Hao's birthday is coming?" Xin Yao looked at me with disdain and said, Hey, that's your husband. You don't even know when your husband's birthday is, and you want me to think about it for you? Hurry up and think about how to hold a birthday party for him." I lowered my head and thought for a moment, then said to her, "Let's hold it at my house. I don't know how to face your parents, and they don't know about Yi's situation. It's better not to let them know. Let's hold it at my house. Yi is almost 3 years old, so let's hold her 3rd birthday together. I'm sure Xiao Hao will be very happy. As for the party, I don't have a clue. I rarely attend parties." At this moment, the Red Baron put down her chopsticks and looked at me. "Leave this to me. I'll sort out the preparations for the party, the activities, and the budget the day after tomorrow and show them to you. As for the procurement and preparation work, I might need to borrow Suri to come with me." The Red Baron looked at Xin Yao. After all, it was better to tell her in advance if she wanted to use her husband. Xin Yao nodded and said calmly, "It's fine, Red Baron. Use him as you please. If there's any hard work, tiring work, or dirty work, just let him do it. If you think he's not useful, just find a place to throw him away. You don't have to return him to me." When she said that, the Red Baron and I almost spat out our food. This must be a fake wife. Suri shook his head helplessly and said to me, "I don't have a choice. I really don't know what to do with this ridiculous wife of mine. Miss, I want to return the goods. Will you accept them?" I smiled awkwardly and said to him, "I won't take the blame for this. You'd better take your wife in." The few of us chatted noisily at the dinner table for a long time. After dinner, Suri found an opportunity to whisper into my ear, "Miss, find an opportunity and ask the Red Baron to tell you about the Kurosawa situation." I nodded and understood what he meant. I used Yi's bath as an excuse and asked Xin Yao to go upstairs to give Yi a bath. Now only Suri, the Red Baron, and I were left in the living room. I looked at Suri and asked softly, "Suri, what do you want to tell me?" "I just received news this afternoon that there's a problem with one of the Kurosawa projects. The company has lost another sum of money. Right now, they're having a meeting to discuss how to deal with it. I have a feeling that it's not that simple. It seems like Secretary Lee isn't the only traitor. There should be others. How could this be? No wonder Hao left in a hurry. So it was because of this. What's going on? Did you find out? Chapter 221. I was suddenly a little worried. This was the so-called misfortunes never come singly. I didn't know if Duanmu K would be able to survive this. I was indeed a little worried. At this moment, the Red Baron looked at me and said, "Indeed, I've heard similar news. You don't have to worry too much. Suri and I will first investigate the situation on their side in detail. However, I hope that you'll be mentally prepared. Due to the lack of smooth capital flow and the lack of funds over a long period of time, Black Scorpion Corporation might go bankrupt. So it's best that you be mentally prepared. Also, there seems to be some movement in our society recently. I feel like they're trying to acquire Black Scorpion Corporation's loss-making projects. To put it bluntly, this is called looting a burning house. But since I'm working for the Red Minghui, of course, I'll support the society's actions. However, as your friend, I know that you're a soft-hearted person, so I should still tell you about this." "What? Acquisition projects?" I was very surprised by the Red Baron's words. Suri nodded and said, "Red Baron is right. The Black Scorpion Corporation's loss-making projects were all resold to some small companies. After that, these projects either stopped or were resold again. Also, the president had been in a meeting recently. I just happened to run into someone who came to attend the meeting. He wasn't a member of our society. I've asked the secretary indirectly, and it seems that he's someone from the company that acquired the Black Scorpion Corporation's loss-making projects. It seems that our Red Minghui really does intend to acquire the Black Scorpion Corporation's projects, but there's no way to do it openly, so we can only deal with it through resale. The president's methods are still very good. How can this be? The Kurosawa are already very miserable. Why does father have to make a move on the Kurosawa at this time? Could it be that the Kurosawa's loss-making projects are so important to father? It was a project that had already been abandoned. Why were they eyeing it covetously? Duanmu Tachio and Xiao Fengya must be under a lot of pressure right now. Both of them are already in poor health. How can they withstand such a big blow? No, I've decided to talk to my father. After hearing my father's true thoughts, I was suddenly worried about Duanmu Tachio and Xiao Fengya. After all, they had treated me well after I married Duanmu Quebec. How could I bear my father doing such a thing to them? At this time, the Red Baron walked up to me. She reached out and patted me on the shoulder, saying, "If you really have this idea, you might as well find a way to comfort them. It's better than having a conflict with the president. Don't you know him? If the guild leader wanted to do something, who could stop him or change his mind? Even Madam couldn't change his mind, let alone you. The help we've given to the Kurosawa is really a drop in the ocean. Also, misfortune never comes alone. Now even the police and the prosecutor's office have their eyes on the Kurosawa. They definitely aren't clean either. So they must be under a lot of pressure." I sighed and looked at the Red Baron. "Red Baron, I have to prepare for Xiaohao's birthday party next week, so I won't be busy for the time being. After the birthday party is over, please arrange for me to go to the Duanmu's house. I want to visit my parents. Don't let my parents know. If my father finds out, he'll definitely be angry." The Red Baron shook her head helplessly. "All right, I got it. I'll arrange it for you. Don't think about anything now. Just focus on accompanying Han, Hao, and E. All right, help me these few days. I'll help you transfer 10 million RMB. You want to send it to Duanmu Tachio and Xiao Fengya, right? I can already guess what you're going to say." The Red Baron interrupted me before I could finish. As expected, she knew me very well. I nodded and looked at her meaningfully, hoping that she would agree. "Miss, you have to know that the funds you can transfer are limited. Whether the Kurosawa can survive this crisis or not is still unknown. If you cut your own flesh bit by bit to make up for them, let's not talk about what the president will do to you if he finds out. Have you considered yourself? You need funds to get married to Han. How? You also need funds to take care of E. Will the Kurosawa accept your kindness? I'm not against you doing this, but I hope you can consider it carefully. I don't want you to do something you'll regret. Do you understand? The Red Baron reached out and hugged me gently. Ever since we arrived in America, whenever I felt helpless, the Red Baron would hug me like this. It was her unique way of calming my anxious heart. I leaned into the Red Baron's embrace and whispered to her, I know. I won't do anything stupid. Just treat it as the last time I'll do something for their family. I can't bear to see them being depressed all day long. Even if it's just doing my best, I want to make them feel better. So, Red Baron, please help me one more time. The Red Baron nodded helplessly. After we finished talking, we returned to the living room. Xin Yao had already bathed E. She was happily playing with E in the living room. I looked at Suri and saw that he also looked disappointed. I whispered to him, Xinya doesn't know about this yet, does she? Suri nodded. She doesn't know yet. This is also President Duanmu's request. After all, Xinyao has never been involved in any of the matters of the Black Nightmare group. If Xinyao finds out, she won't be able to handle it. Dad is actually quite right. If you really can't handle it, you should send Xinyao to America first. Doesn't she still have things to do there? It's fine. Xinyao and I have saved some money from our marriage. Although it's not a lot, I've given it all to President Duanmu. You can say that I've done my best. Xinyao told me that she hasn't had a good time after being together for so long, and now something like this has happened. I don't feel good about it either. Suri's expression was very disappointed. I could tell that he wasn't in a good mood. We walked into the living room. When Xinyao saw us, she stood up with E in her arms. She looked at us and said, Hubby, you're done talking? It's getting late. We should go home. I just called Dad, but he didn't pick up. He's probably too busy at the meeting. Suri nodded. He looked at Xinyao and said, Let's go home. Milady should take E to rest. We still have to go home tomorrow and prepare for Han Hao's birthday party. There are a lot of things to do, so we still have to plan. Xinyao handed E to me. She took her bag and hugged Suri's arm. Then she left with Suri. Looking at their loving backs, I really envied them. Chapter 222. After Xinyao and Suri left, the Red Baron went back to his room. I carried E back to the bedroom. I lay on the bed with E sitting next to me. She was having a great time playing with her toys. At this moment, my phone rang. I took it out and saw that it was Han Hao. I answered the call. Xiao Hao. Darling, I'm done with the meeting. I just finished. I heard Han Hao's tired voice. The meeting had been going on for a long time. A few hours had passed and I was worried about his health. You've worked hard. Have you eaten? It's very late. I was worried. I haven't had time to eat yet, and I can't eat anything now. Something happened in the meeting, and Uncle Duanmu's entire state is not good. During the meeting, he took the medicine that he brought with him several times. We all suggested that the meeting be suspended, but he insisted on finishing the meeting. We couldn't persuade him otherwise, but my wife reminded me that I am indeed a little hungry. I sighed. It seemed that the loss of the project had really affected Duanmu Tachio. I said to Han Hao, you should go eat something first. You can't not eat. You haven't eaten dinner yet. I'm not in a hurry. Where's E? I miss E. What is she doing? Han Hao actually missed E. I handed the phone to E and said softly, E, it's Daddy. Do you want to hear it? E immediately perked up when she heard that. She climbed into my arms and snatched the phone from my hand. She said loudly into the phone, Daddy. Daddy, where are you? Darling E, what are you doing? Did you miss Daddy? E nodded seriously and said, I miss Daddy. I'm playing in Mommy's arms. Daddy, when are you coming back? E misses Daddy. I heard Han Hao say softly on the other end of the phone, E, be good. Daddy misses you too, but Daddy can't go back today. Daddy has something to do tonight. E, you have to be good and stay by Mommy's side, okay? You can't run around and make Mommy unhappy. okay? One by one. She didn't expect that after hearing Han Hao's words, E would actually start crying. She cried out loudly, "Dad, why didn't Daddy come back?" Seeing E crying so sadly, I couldn't do anything about it. I took out a tissue and gently wiped E's tears. E was still crying very hard. I took the phone from E's hand and said to Han Hao, "Xiao Hao, don't worry. E will be fine soon. Remember to eat and don't work too late. Your health is important." There was silence on the other end of the phone for a long time. Han Hao whispered to me, "Honey, can you come out and have a midnight snack with me later? Just find a place near home. I miss you, and E. Can you do me the honor of having a meal with me? It won't take long." I raised my head and looked at the time. It was already 10 o'clock. Although it was very late, I also missed Han Hao. I whispered to him, "Okay, I got it. Then when you come to the door, give me a call and I'll bring E over." "Okay, I'll be there in 20 minutes. Then Han Hao hung up the phone. I put down the phone and turned to see E looking at me with a serious face. I looked at her suspiciously and asked softly, "What's wrong? E, why are you looking at me with such a strange expression?" "Mommy, did Daddy say anything?" E's expression was still serious. I smiled and stroked her hair. "You care about your daddy so much. I'm not happy that you don't care about me anymore. Your daddy said he'll find us later for a midnight snack. He said he misses you. That's great. That's great." E jumped on the bed happily. Seeing her happy expression, I realized that just giving a child motherly love was not enough. She needed a good father to guide her life. After interacting with Han Hao for 2 days, I realized that many of E's bad habits had been changed. She also didn't speak in single words or phrases like before. Instead, she spoke in continuous sentences. I also noticed that Han Hao was very strict with E's language education. I got out of bed and opened the wardrobe. I didn't know what to wear for E because it would be cold at night. I still wanted to give her a jacket. At this time, E walked to the bedside and pointed at a pink dress in the wardrobe. "Mommy, I want to wear that dress." That dress was bought for her by Han Hao. No wonder she liked it so much. I took it out of the wardrobe and put it on E. It fit her very well. I also changed into the clothes and waited for Han Hao to call me. I tidied up a little and carried E downstairs to the living room to wait for the call. At this time, my parents walked in from outside, but they looked very serious. They didn't even say a word. My father went into the study. When my mother saw me, she sat on the sofa. I looked at my mother and asked softly, "Mom, what's wrong? You and Daddy don't look very happy. Why did you come back so late?" My mother sighed. She looked at me and said, "Are you and E going out? It's already so late." Yes. Han Hao just finished a meeting and hasn't eaten yet. He'll come to pick us up later. We'll go eat with him. It just so happens that he misses E and E misses him too. What's wrong? Mom, I rarely see you this angry. So that's how it is. Then you have to be careful. I'll tell you the details when you come back. I'm about to die from anger because of your father. Looking at my mother's angry face, I shook my head helplessly. At this time, my phone rang. It was Han Hao. I carried E and stood up. I said to my mother, "Mom, don't be angry. We've been married for so long. It's getting late. You should rest. We'll talk about the details tomorrow." After a simple conversation with my mother, I carried E out of the living room. Han Hao had already arrived at the station and was waiting for us at the entrance. When E saw Han Hao, she struggled out of my arms and ran in front of Han Hao. Han Hao directly picked E up. E wrapped her arms around his neck and gave him a big kiss. I walked in front of Han Hao. He looked at me and said softly, "Let's go." I booked a table at a barbecue restaurant nearby. I nodded and followed Han Hao into the car. When we arrived at the restaurant, we got out of the car and walked in. Although it was already very late, there were still many people eating. Han Hao found a table by the window and we sat down. He ordered some simple food and started playing with E. I looked at Han Hao. Although he deliberately tried to show his energetic side, I could see that he was tired. Chapter 223. The food was already served. Han Hao barbecued the meat and fed Yi at the same time. He didn't care about himself at all. My heart ached as I looked at him. I whispered to him, "Xiao, why don't I feed Yi? You haven't had a proper meal yet. Hurry up and eat more." Han Hao smiled and looked at me. It's okay. I miss Yi, and I've eaten a lot. Darling, you don't have to worry about me." I looked at Han Hao and whispered, "I already know that there's a problem in Kurosawa again." I told Han Hao bluntly that the funds that the Red Baron wanted to transfer to Kurosawa's funds would have to go through Han Hao. Han Hao looked at me and whispered, "So you already know?" It seems like the Red Tea Society's information network is very well informed. I thought it would take some time before we found out. In fact, the society has been blocking the news. The president doesn't know how to deal with it anymore. The society is in a mess now. Little K didn't come to the meeting today, but I think he already knows what's going on. His tolerance is also very poor. I tried to contact him all night, but I couldn't reach him. I couldn't get through to him even though I tried. I thought for a moment, then looked at Han Hao and said, "Xiao Hao, I asked the Red Baron to transfer 10 million from my liquid funds. After I withdraw the money, I'll have to transfer it to the Kurosawa project through you. It's not convenient for me to show my face, and I can't let my parents know. So I'll have to ask you to do this. Your own funds? Darling, last time a stranger in Kurosawa invested 10 million. Was it you? It must be you, and it should be under someone else's name. Where did you get so much money? Did you use the Red Minghue's money? Do your parents know?" Han Hao was suddenly angry. He looked at me seriously and put down his chopsticks. I sighed and looked at Han Hao. "Xiao Hao, can you help me one more time? I know that this amount of money is nothing to the Kurosawa right now, but it's also a token of my sincerity. This might be the last time I can transfer so much money. I don't know when my parents will find out. If they do, I might be grounded. Just treat it as me doing this for the Kurosawa Duan Mutachio and Xiaofeng, okay? Xiao Hao, please." Han Hao looked at me and suddenly compromised. He looked at me and said, "Xiao Li, I promise you, but you have to promise me that this will be the last time. I don't want to see you like this again. You used 20 million for the Kurosawa. You know, Xiao K can't pay you back with this amount of money. It's like this money is wasted. Do you know that you still want to invest for them?" I nodded and looked at Han Hao. "I know. I don't expect them to pay me back. Just treat it as my investment. Of course, this time I will let the Red Baron take my place. With her name, it won't be good for me to show my face. So please help me. Thank you, Xiao Hao. I promise you that this will be the last time. Xiao Li, do you still have feelings for Xiao K? Tell me the truth. You don't have to consider my feelings." I could see that Han Hao was a bit angry. I shook my head and said softly, "I don't have feelings for him. Don't you believe me? I already promised to be with you. Don't you believe me?" "It's not that I don't believe you. I just want to know if you still have feelings for him. After all, you two were together before." "I'm worried. What are you worried about? Are you worried that we will still be together?" "Han Hao, you hurt my self-esteem too much. I really want to be with you. I just don't want to see the Kurosawa fall. Am I wrong? Are my feelings for you so easily shaken in your eyes? You disappoint me too much. Forget it. I don't need you to help me with this. I can handle it myself." I interrupted Han Hao's words. I stood up and walked in front of Han Hao. I grabbed E from his arms and left the barbecue shop without looking back. I heard Han Hao call my name behind me. E also cried loudly in my arms. But I couldn't care less. I didn't know what I was angry about either. Maybe it was because Han Hao didn't trust me, which made me very disappointed. I carried E and angrily walked back home. My phone kept ringing, and I knew it must be Han Hao. I was so angry right now that I didn't want to pick up his call. E kept crying on my shoulder, but I couldn't care less. I carried her upstairs to the bedroom and put her on the bed. She was still crying and making a fuss. I was a bit angry. I looked at E and said angrily to her, "Long Ling you, what are you crying for? Don't cry. I want Daddy. I want Daddy. You left Daddy there." E cried and rubbed her eyes. "Don't cry. He's not your daddy. What do you want from your daddy?" I said it. "Don't cry. I'm angry." I put my hands on my waist and looked at E. She continued to cry, and her cries were heart-wrenching. Her cries were getting louder and louder. I was so angry that I didn't want to care about her anymore, so I sat on the edge of the bed. Unexpectedly, E's cries attracted the Red Baron. She knocked on the door and walked in. First, she saw my angry face. Then she saw E crying on the bed. She sighed and walked over to E. She gently picked her up and patted her back. E's cries gradually quieted down. After a while, E actually fell asleep in the Red Baron's arms. I gradually calmed down. After the Red Baron put E on the child's bed, she walked over to my side and patted my shoulder gently. "Come with me." I followed the Red Baron to her room. After the Red Baron closed the door, she turned around and looked at me. "What's wrong with you? E is only 3 years old. Why are you angry with her? It's a good thing you didn't wake the president and his wife up. If you woke them up, they would definitely scold you. What's the reason? Tell me what's wrong." I sighed and looked at the Red Baron. "It's nothing. I just don't feel right. Tell me the truth. Are you trying to hide your thoughts from me?" The Red Baron put her hands on her waist and looked at me with disdain. I pursed my lips and described my conversation with Han Hao to the Red Baron. The Red Baron thought for a moment and said, "Based on what you said, I think Han Hao didn't do anything wrong. Even if Han Hao did something wrong, E didn't do anything wrong. You shouldn't get angry at E and yell at her. She didn't do anything wrong for missing her father. You shouldn't vent your anger on E." Chapter 224. I thought about it for a moment. I really shouldn't have treated E like that. Then, the Red Baron looked at me and said, "How about this? E finally fell asleep, so let's not disturb her today. When you wake up tomorrow morning, you have to apologize to E. E is the most sensible child I've ever met. If you were to throw a tantrum at her, she would remember it. Children are their parents' mirrors. So, remember to apologize." I sighed and looked at the Red Baron. All right, I got it. I was too anxious. Maybe it was because I didn't feel safe. I already cared a lot about him, but I didn't expect him to think that I still loved someone else. At this time, Red Ju's mobile phone rang. She glanced at the mobile phone, then looked at me and said, "Okay, let's go to the garden and listen to how he will explain to you. He has called me no less than 20 times since the beginning, and he probably called you even more. Just now, he sent me a message saying that he is waiting for you in the garden and asked you to go down. If you believe me, go down and give him a chance to listen to how he explains to you. If he is really wrong, you have to give him a chance to redeem himself, right? Isn't that right?" I thought for a moment and nodded. I took out my phone and looked at it. As expected, there were dozens of calls and texts from Han Hao. I sighed and left the Red Baron's room. I went downstairs and came to the garden. As expected, I saw Han Hao standing under the big tree in the garden. I walked up to Han Hao and looked at him. He looked at me with deep affection. Just as I was about to speak, Han Hao reached out and pulled me into his arms. I was stunned. He cupped my face and kissed me gently on the lips. He hugged me tightly in his arms. Before I could resist, Han Hao hugged me even tighter. After a while, Han Hao lifted his head and looked at me. I was blushing, but I wasn't sure if he could see that. Han Hao looked at me with deep affection in his eyes. I sighed and was about to speak when Han Hao pulled me into his arms again and gently stabilized me. I couldn't resist at all. After a while, Han Hao lifted his head and looked at me again. "What else do you want to say?" I closed my mouth tightly. I was afraid that if I opened my mouth again, he would kiss me again. Han Hao seemed to see my hesitation. He reached out and gently brushed my nose. All right, say it. I won't force a kiss. I'll let you talk. I sighed. I was about to speak, but I suddenly forgot what I wanted to say. It seemed like I wasn't that angry anymore. I looked at Han Hao and said, All right, I forgot what I wanted to say. I don't think there's anything else to say. Let's just let bygones be bygones. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Han Hao hugged me in his arms. He gently stroked my hair and said, Silly, I've reflected on it just now. Indeed, I didn't consider your feelings when I said those words. Actually, I didn't mean it that way. I was just afraid. I was afraid that you would leave me. But I know that your feelings for me are true, so I'm very satisfied. So please don't be angry. I shouldn't have thrown a tantrum at you and left without looking back. I did something wrong just now too. I vented all my anger on E. E was crying so hard. If Red Jew hadn't coaxed E, I would have let her down the entire night. I'll have to apologize to her tomorrow morning. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have thrown a tantrum at her. Han Hao nodded. He looked at me and said, How about this? I'm also responsible. Let's apologize to E together tomorrow. Does E have anywhere she wants to go? We'll take her to have fun tomorrow. That's good too. But Kurosawa is such a big thing. Is it appropriate for you not to go? Don't let us delay the important matters. That won't happen. The chairman hasn't made a clear decision yet, and the board of directors hasn't made any announcements. I've already told the secretary to call me immediately if there's anything. All right, I know of a fun place where all the children go for morning classes. Let's sign E up. She can even play with children her age. What do you think? I think E is so cute. When she grows up, I want her to learn how to dance. I want her to be a beautiful little angel. What do you think? That's a good idea. Let's do it then. E and I will be waiting for you tomorrow morning. I glanced at my watch. After all the trouble, it was already 11:30. I said to Han Hao, It's getting late. You should go back early and rest. You must come early tomorrow. Han Hao looked at me and smiled. He reached out and touched my chin. He looked at me with a smirk and said, What's wrong? You can't bear to part with me? It's rare that you can't bear to part with me. What should I do? I can't bear to leave you either. Han Hao held me in his arms. He gently buried his head in my shoulder and kissed my neck. My whole body felt hot, and I held onto his collar tightly. Han Hao's hand stroked my back. My breathing was a little short, and I collapsed in Han Hao's arms. Han Hao put his hand under my shirt, and I didn't dodge. I just hooked my arms around his neck and kissed his lips. Han Hao's hand wandered all over my body. I couldn't stand still. Han Hao held me with one hand and stroked my body with the other. I couldn't take it anymore. I whispered into Han Hao's ear, Xiao Hao, don't do this. I can't stand properly. Xiao Hao. Han Hao looked at me and smiled. He gently kissed my neck again. My body became even more limp, and I collapsed in his arms. I was already tortured beyond recognition. I gasped for air and felt like my whole body had been electrified. After a while, Han Hao stopped. He looked at me and smiled. This is your punishment for being disobedient today. Next time, if you're disobedient, I will. You know what I mean. Han Hao cupped my face and kissed my lips softly. Then he looked at me and said, All right, it's getting late. I have to go. You should rest early too. After I sent Han Hao off, I went back to the bedroom. E was still sleeping soundly in the baby bed. I gently covered her with the blanket. Maybe it was Han Hao's intimate actions that ignited my desire. My body was still a little hot. Maybe it was because I had feelings for Han Hao. I was actually fantasizing about having sex with him. My face turned red again. Chapter 225. She rubbed her eyes and looked at me, as if she was still angry with me. I picked her up and gently patted her back and said, Mommy has something to tell you. Can you let Mommy finish? E rubbed her eyes and nodded. I sighed and looked at E. Mommy was wrong. Mommy shouldn't have lost my temper with E yesterday. E didn't do anything wrong. I shouldn't have vented my anger on you and didn't consider your feelings. So, can you forgive Mommy? Don't be angry with Mommy anymore. Mommy won't do this again. I promise you. E stopped crying and looked up at me. She reached out and hugged my neck. Then she said softly, E isn't angry anymore, but E misses Daddy. There was a trace of sobbing in her voice. It seemed that her mood was really affected because she didn't say goodbye to Han Hao yesterday. I looked at E and said, E, be good. Daddy came over yesterday when you were asleep. He said that he was going to take E out to play today, to a place where there are a lot of children. He told us to wake up early. So E needs to wash up and eat breakfast now. Do you understand? E looked at me and nodded sincerely. Then she struggled out of my arms and ran to the bathroom. I was very happy to see E being so obedient. After I took E to wash up and eat breakfast, I received a call from Han Hao. We set off. As soon as we walked out of the door, we saw Han Hao. E ran over to him as if she was flying. Han Hao picked her up. The two of them were so close that I felt a little jealous. We arrived at the Early Childhood Education Center. There were a lot of classes for young children. There were a lot of parents and children here. As expected, there were a lot of children around E's age. E was very excited when she arrived and looked around. Han Hao quickly signed E up for a year's classes. This place was like a kindergarten. Babies could stay here for the whole day or leave with their parents after class. It was all voluntary. It was more convenient for office workers. I happened to see the price of this Early Childhood Education Center. It wasn't something that an ordinary family could afford. Han Hao signed up for a year's classes. It must have cost a lot, but I could see that Han Hao really liked E. At this time, Han Hao came to me with the class schedule. He handed it to me and said softly, Dear, I've signed up for E's classes. She can start class today. I just took a look. In 10 minutes, the class is for children's ballet. I also bought a beautiful dance outfit for E. After he said that, Han Hao took out a beautiful ballet outfit from behind him. E's eyes lit up when she saw it. After we changed E's clothes, we entered the classroom. The teacher was very gentle and patient with all the children. E wore the little dress and stood in a row near the side. Unexpectedly, the teacher brought E to the front row and had her stand in the middle. I looked at Han Hao. Han Hao smiled at me and said softly, VIP. You know. Indeed, Han Hao had spent so much money. No matter what, he should be a VIP. Han Hao and I looked at E. She was very serious as she followed the teacher's instructions. Even if some of the movements were difficult for her, she would still do her best. Her tenacity was very similar to mine. Even the teacher praised E. When it was time for halftime, E ran to our side. Han Hao hugged E and asked softly, E, how is it? Do you like it here? E nodded. I like it here. There are so many children here. Just now, the teacher told me that there will be an art class later. I'm so happy. Just then, a staff member from the Early Education Center came to us. She smiled and greeted E. Han Hao looked at her and said, Oh, you're here. This is my daughter. I'll leave the rest to you. Yes, Mr. Han. The woman looked at E and said, Hello, E. From now on, you'll be with me in school. Can you call me Teacher Xiao Mei? E looked at her and smiled. Hello, Teacher Xiao Mei. Teacher Xiao Mei gently stroked E's hair. At this time, Han Hao stood up. He looked at Teacher Xiao Mei and said, I'll leave the rest to you. I'm going to take my wife out for a bit. We'll be back after lunch. If there's anything you need during this period of time, please remember to contact me. Han Hao turned his head and looked at E. E, Dad is taking Mom out to do something. We'll come back to pick you up after lunch, okay? Just be good and listen to Teacher Xiao Mei, okay? E looked at Han Hao and nodded. Dad, I understand. I'll be good and wait here for Mom and Dad to pick me up. Dad, you guys go do your thing. With that, She ran off to class without looking back. Han Hao pulled me out of the early education center. After we walked out of the center, I looked at Han Hao and asked, Xiao Hao, why are you in such a hurry to take me out? Is it okay to leave Yi here alone? I'm still a bit worried. After all, she's never left my side for too long. I'm still a bit worried. Han Hao pulled my hand and walked forward without looking back. He whispered to me, Don't worry, I've already paid for it. I've also done my research. This early education center has the best reputation. I also paid for teacher Xiao Mei. For the sake of money, they'll take good care of Yi. You don't need to worry. How could I bear to see anything happen to Yi? I just want to take you somewhere right now. Hearing Han Hao say that, I didn't say anything else. I just followed his footsteps, wanting to know where he was taking me. There was a 5-star hotel not far from Yi's early education center. Han Hao took me there and went straight upstairs to a room. Han Hao suddenly walked behind me and put his hand on my shoulder. He handed the room card to me and said, Open it. I froze. Was Han Hao going to take me to a hotel? No way. Could it be that my performance yesterday was too obvious and he found out? That shouldn't be. There was clearly no light. How did he find out? Impossible. It must be something else. I shouldn't panic. Chapter 226. I took the room card and opened the door. I saw that the lights in the room were dark red. The floor of the room was filled with small candles and rose petals. In the middle of the room was a dining table with candles, steak, and red wine. The table was covered with flowers. Han Hao suddenly reached out and hugged me from behind. He softly whispered into my ear, Do you like it, darling? My face was a little red as I leaned into Han Hao's embrace, not knowing what to do. This warm scene suddenly made my heart beat faster. At this moment, Han Hao walked in front of me from behind. He knelt on one knee in front of me and took out a diamond ring from his pocket. He looked at me and softly said, Xiaoli, I know you don't like to show off, so I planned this marriage proposal. Although you just agreed to be with me not long ago, my feelings for you are very, very deep. I think you should understand my feelings for you. Right now, I really want to take care of you and Yi. Can you give me this opportunity? Xiaoli, promise me. Will you marry me? Han Hao looked at me with deep affection. I looked at Han Hao. I had been completely conquered by him. How could I have the heart to refuse him? My eyes glistened with tears. I suddenly felt that my heart didn't have to wander alone anymore. I looked at Han Hao and nodded. I softly said to him, Xiao Hao, I'm willing. I'm willing to marry you. I'm sorry that it took me so long to say yes. Han Hao's eyes were also wet. He put the ring on my hand and gently kissed it. Then he stood up and hugged me in his arms. He gently kissed my lips. Han Hao looked at me and softly said, It's not too late. I'm satisfied with this answer. I don't care about anything else. Xiaoli, thank you for giving me the opportunity to truly have you. Han Hao lowered his head and kissed my lips again. I hugged him tightly and felt his gentleness. At this moment, Han Hao carried me horizontally. I hugged his neck tightly as he carried me to the bed. I knew that I couldn't avoid this tenderness, so I chose to accept it. After all, this was the man I loved deeply. Han Hao carried me to the bed and pressed his whole body on top of me. My face was a little red, and I didn't know what to do. At this moment, Han Hao looked at me and gently kissed my neck. He softly said, Let's finish what we didn't finish yesterday, shall we? My face turned even redder. I said softly, I haven't taken a shower today. I was completely incoherent. I didn't know what I was talking about. At this moment, Han Hao hugged me and smiled. He looked at me and said, Silly girl, let's take a shower together. I want to take a shower with my dear wife too. Then, Han Hao carried me and I sat opposite him. Han Hao said softly, I'm going to start undressing you. Hearing Han Hao's words, my face turned even redder. Han Hao reached out and started unbuttoning my shirt. However, I could feel Han Hao's hand tremble. Han Hao glanced at me. I lowered my head and didn't dare to look at him. Then, Han Hao said softly, I'm going to test the water temperature. Then, Han Hao ran to the bathroom and took a bath towel to cover me. Then, he rushed into the bathroom again. Maybe because he was too nervous, he didn't close the bathroom door. When I walked to the bathroom door, I saw Han Hao standing at the bathroom door. He had his back to me as he turned on the water and tested the temperature of the water. When the temperature was about right, Han Hao suddenly stood up and took off his shirt. Han Hao's perfect body appeared in front of me. Then he started taking off his pants. I stood behind him and watched him take off his shirt, pants, and underwear. Then he stepped into the bathtub. My face was very red and my heart was beating very fast. Han Hao suddenly looked at me, standing at the door. He was so scared that he shouted, Xiao Li, why are you here? When did you appear? Could it be God? You couldn't have seen me when I was changing, right? You saw me. Han Hao's face became very red. Looking at his shy appearance, I laughed. I walked over to him and sat in the bathtub. I walked towards him and took off the towel draped over my body. I walked into the bathtub and sat opposite Han Hao. Han Hao looked at me and his face was very red. I looked at him and smiled. I walked to his side and gently leaned on Duanmu Kei's shoulder. Han Hao took the opportunity to hug me in his arms. I leaned against his chest and could hear his heartbeat. After soaking for a while, I gently wiped his chest. Han Hao's face turned even redder. I could feel that his desire must have reached its peak. Thinking about it, it didn't seem good for me to tease him like this. Just as I was about to leave his embrace, I didn't expect him to hug me even tighter. Han Hao cupped my face and kissed my lips. He said softly, "What's wrong? Are you going to run away after talking? I'm not teasing you. You're thinking too much." My eyes flickered. Han Hao smiled and stood up with me in his arms. I tightly hooked my arms around his neck. The places where our bodies touched seemed to ignite my desire. My whole body felt weak. Han Hao walked out of the bathtub and helped me down. He took a bath towel and gently wiped the water off my body. Then he wiped the water off his own body. Then he picked me up again and walked out of the bathroom to the bed. He put me on the bed and pressed his body against mine, looking at me with a gentle gaze. He gently kissed my forehead and said, "Xiao Li, do you know how long I've been waiting for this moment? But I don't have much experience. After all, it's my first time. You can't laugh at me." I could feel that Han Hao didn't have much confidence when he said this. I reached out and hooked my arms around Han Hao's neck. I looked at him and said softly, "Xiao Hao, can you be a bit gentler? I'm a bit scared." Chapter 227. Han Hao reached out and gently stroked my face. "Silly, how could I bear to hurt you?" he said softly. Han Hao lowered his head and gently kissed my lips. He kissed my face and then my neck. I hugged Han Hao's neck tightly and felt my whole body relax. I lay under him and felt his gentleness as I gasped for air. Han Hao kissed my neck while he reached out and caressed my body. His hands were very soft and they gently caressed my upper body. Han Hao completely ignited my desire. At this moment, Han Hao raised his head and looked at me. I still hadn't reacted. Han Hao said softly, "Darling, you look so beautiful right now." Han Hao also laid down beside me and hugged me gently. His body was covered in sweat. His heart was beating fast and his breathing was very loud. I took a tissue and gently wiped the sweat off his face. Han Hao hugged me and patted my back gently. He looked at the time. It was already 11:30. There was still half an hour before Yi's class ended and lunch was over. Han Hao whispered to me, "It's getting late. There's still half an hour before we have to go and pick Yi up." I snuggled into Han Hao's arms and hugged him tightly. I haven't laid down enough. I snuggled into Han Hao's arms like a kitten. Han Hao looked at me acting cute and smiled. Be good. Let's go and take a shower now. We'll have plenty of time in the future." But E's class is about to end, and we promised E that we'll go and pick her up after lunch. We have to keep our word in front of the child. If we don't keep our word, we'll teach the child the wrong things, okay? I sighed and nodded helplessly. Han how gently stroked my hair and said, "Be good, darling. I also want to be lovey-dovey with you like this. We'll have plenty of time in the future. Okay? Let's go and take a shower." Han how stood up from the bed. He carried me horizontally and walked toward the bathroom. Han how wasn't as shy as he was at the beginning. After a round of passion, I felt that Han how was even more manly. He carried me into the bathtub and gently wiped the sweat off my body. I could feel the warmth of his arms. I turned my head to look at him and gently wiped his body. Han how looked at me with a smile. His expression was very gentle. I didn't know why, but for a moment it reminded me of Douanmu, Quebec. I was stunned and stopped. "Darling, what's wrong?" Han how looked at the dazed me and asked. When I heard him call me, I reacted. I shook my head and threw myself into his arms and hugged him tightly. Han how hugged me too. I really cherished the time I had with him. I didn't know why, but I was suddenly afraid that he would leave me. After Han how and I cleaned up, we ate a simple meal and left the hotel for E's early education center. On the way, Han how held my hand. After a long time of torment, he was even more energetic. On the other hand, I was a little tired. Moreover, there was a dull pain down there. I sighed in my heart more than once. Han how was really amazing. He tormented me until my limbs were weak. Han how looked at my listless appearance and said worriedly, "What's wrong, darling? Is it because you did it just now? Why do I feel like you don't have any energy at all? Or did you catch a cold? Do you want to go to the hospital?" I shook my head and looked at Han how. "It's nothing. It's a little uncomfortable down there. Maybe it's because I haven't done it for a long time." Han how looked around and saw that there was no one around. He leaned close to my ear and whispered, "I'll tell you a secret. Actually, it's quite painful down there, but I can endure it. After E's school is over, let's not go anywhere else. Let's just go home and have a good rest. I'll also tell Uncle and Auntie about our marriage." Hearing Han how's words, I nodded in agreement. Han how and I arrived at E's early education center just in time for lunch. I looked through the glass window and saw that E was eating. The lunch in the early education center was very good. I saw that E was eating very happily. All of the children were eating seriously. Han how and I sat in the corridor and waited for E to finish eating. After the children finished eating, all of the children came out. At this time, E also came out. She saw us and ran over to us. She threw herself into Han how's arms. Han how kissed E and then said to E, "Darling girl, did you have fun this morning?" E nodded vigorously and said, Yes. There are a lot of fun things to do here. There are also a lot of children around my age. I even became good friends with one of them." At this time, a little boy came out of the classroom. E climbed down from Han how's arms. She ran over to the little boy and then pulled him over to us. She looked at us and said, "Mommy, Daddy, this is my boyfriend. His name is E." Han how and I looked at each other and couldn't help but laugh. Han how looked at E and patted E's head. He smiled and said, "This is your boyfriend. E's boyfriend, hello. You're so handsome." The little boy held E's hand tightly and said softly, "Hello, Uncle and Auntie." At this time, Han how looked at E and said, "E, it's getting late. We have to go home. Your little boyfriend is going home later too. Can you two meet again next time?" Chapter 228. After saying goodbye to E's boyfriend, we drove home. On the way home, E was very excited. She told us about what had happened at the early education center. It seemed that E really liked the early education center. Han how and I agreed that we would bring E to class whenever we had time. On the way home, I was still listless. Han how turned to look at me and then reached out to touch my hand. He said softly, "Darling, are you still not feeling well?" I'll drive faster and get home faster. Han, how increased the speed of the car. Not long after, we arrive home. When we got home, we got out of the car and entered the house. My parents were sitting in the living room, one on the left and one on the right. Both of them were doing their own things and didn't speak to each other. It seemed that the conflict between my parents hadn't been resolved yet. Han Hao stood at the door with Yi in his arms. He could tell that there was a problem between the two elders. He said softly to me, "Darling, what's going on? Why is the atmosphere so awkward?" I whispered into his ear and told my parents about what had happened 2 days ago. At this time, Han Hao walked over with Yi in his arms. He said loudly, "Uncle, Auntie, we're back." My parents looked up and saw Han Hao. My mother said, "Xiao Hao, you're back. Where did you go today?" We enrolled Yi in an early education center. Today was her first day of class, and she felt pretty good. At this time, Han Hao looked at my father. He handed Yi to my mother and then said to my father, "Uncle, I have something to discuss with you about the Kurosawa. Let's go to the study." "All right, follow me." My father stood up and followed Han Hao into the study. I looked at my mother. She looked very serious today. She was probably still angry with my father. I walked over to my mother and sat down. I looked at her and said softly, "Mom, what's wrong?" "I'm fine." Although my mother said that she was fine, she was definitely very angry. I called the nanny and asked her to take Yi to the Red Baron. Then I looked around to make sure there was no one around. I said softly to my mother, "Mom, it's okay. There's no one here. If you have something to say, just say it. If you don't say it, it'll be hard for you to keep it in your heart. I don't feel good about it." My mother sighed. She said to me, "Your father is too selfish. I used to think that he was a hard-working person. I didn't expect that he would become so cunning as he got older. Now he learned how to take advantage of others." I looked at my mother in confusion and asked softly, "What's going on?" "Mom, tell me in detail. Don't be angry." You should have heard about the internal problems in Kurosawa. People in their company poached part of the company's internal funds and caused many projects to go bankrupt. Tell me, when you married Xiao Kei, let's not talk about how Xiao Kei treated you afterward. Duan Mutachio and Xiao Fenya treated you very well. Even when Xiao Kei didn't treat you well, they were on your side. Tell me, with this kind of relationship, it's not like you won't interact with each other just because you don't want to be in-laws. Shouldn't you help each other at this critical time? But what about your father? He secretly sent people to empty Kurosawa's deficit projects behind my back. The Kurosawa couldn't auction these projects, but your father used 2 hands to merge these projects into the Red Minghue's name. How could Duan Mutachio not know about it? No one is a fool. They just don't want to lower themselves to our level. When I found out about this, your father actually told me to stay out of it. At that time, I was so angry that I didn't know what to say. When I found out, I immediately called Xiao Fenya. Just by listening to her voice, I knew that she must be tortured to death. Because of this, I came back and quarreled with your father. Your father said that I didn't understand him, and I said that he was heartless. Just like that, we quarreled and neither of us wanted to talk to the other. Hearing my mother's words, my heart warmed. Or maybe it said that women's hearts are soft. Looking at it now, it was just as Suri said. My father really did buy Kurosawa's bankrupt projects. It was really too much. I looked at my mother and said, "Mom, don't be angry. I did hear about the Kurosawa incident. Dad did go overboard, but you don't have to be angry with him. You're already an old married couple. Don't let this affect your relationship of so many years." As for Duan Mutachio and Xiao Fenya, after I celebrate Han Hao and Yi's birthdays, I will find time to visit them. She took out a bank card from her pocket and handed it to me. She said to me softly, "Li it's not good for me to go over. This is the 5 million I saved before. Please give it to Xiao Fenya for me. After all, I have known her for so many years. When we went to school together, our relationship was also very good. Now that her family is in trouble, I can't just sit back and watch. But don't let your father know about this for the time being. If he knows about this, he will definitely fly into a rage again. I'm not afraid of him. I'm just worried that his anger will hurt his body. It's not like you don't know that his blood pressure is high. He has a high blood pressure. I gently patted my mother's back and said, "Mom, I know. Don't worry. In fact, I also transferred $10 million from our company. I'm going to give it to them next week. Mom, please keep this a secret for me. I really didn't help their family because of Duanmu, Quebec. I also helped Duanmu Tachio and Xiaofengya because they cared about me. Mom, I hope you can understand." Silly girl, I know. Don't worry. I'll take care of your father. Don't worry. I won't be angry with him anymore. I have to coax him. Only then will you be able to handle things on your side, right? At this time, my mother saw the ring on my finger. She immediately understood. She said to me, "Right, I see that Han Hao is very good to you. He should have proposed to you. How did you two decide? When did you decide to get married?" My face suddenly turned red. I lowered my head awkwardly and said to my mother, "Xiao Hao is very good to me. He did propose to me. It's just that I haven't decided when I'm going to marry him. Isn't it too sudden? But he's really good. He's a good man. I want to cherish him. Yi also likes him a lot. There are some things that I can't say, but Xiao Hao can. He also helped me solve a lot of problems, so I still want to marry him." My mother took my hand and said, "When you meet the right one, cherish him. Your father and I both like him. He's a good child. He's filial and sensible." Chapter 229. Also, you might not know this, but a lot of information about the Kurosawa came from him to your father. Although it's immoral, your father also used some extreme methods, Mother said angrily. Extreme methods? What methods? Mom, did Dad threaten Xiao Hao? What methods did he use? I anxiously asked Mother. Mother looked at me and sighed. On the surface, he acted as if he had an agreement with Han Hao's father, but in reality, he was threatening Han Hao's father. He has really changed. He never had this kind of attitude before. Ever since he started earning money, he has completely changed. I don't want to talk to him anymore. That's all. Mother was obviously disappointed. If what she said was true, I couldn't let father continue like this. Because of the Kurosawa matter, our family was already in a mess. Just as I didn't know what to do, Han Hao and father walked out of the study. I looked at Mother's expression, which became even more serious. I quickly stood up and walked over. I looked at Han Hao, who was smiling at me. It seemed that he and father had a good talk. I looked at father and said softly, "Dad, Mom wants to talk to you. You go talk to her. Han Hao and I are going upstairs." Father looked at Mother and then said to me in a low voice, "What do you want to talk about?" I pulled father's arm and said, "Dad, you can talk to my mom properly. You're already an old married couple. What can't you solve? Okay, we're going upstairs. When we finish eating and come down, you two must make up." Finished speaking, I pulled Han Haotsong upstairs. Before we left, I gave my mother a meaningful glance. I pulled Han Hao upstairs. After we entered the bedroom, I quickly closed the door. I turned to look at Han Hao and said softly, "What did you talk about with Dad? You talked for so long?" Han Hao reached out and hugged me. He smiled and said, "Of course, I told Uncle about our marriage. Nothing else." "You didn't say anything else?" I looked at Han Hao angrily. Han Hao was surprised when he saw that I was angry. He said to me softly, "Honey, what's wrong?" "I just talked to Uncle about our marriage. I didn't say anything else." I reached out and pushed Han Hao away. I looked at him and asked, "I hope you're not lying to me. Xiao Hao, I heard that you were threatened by my father and told him about the Kurosawa. Is there such a thing?" Han Hao was bewildered. He lowered his head and didn't look at me. I understood that Han Hao had his difficulties. Otherwise, he wouldn't compromise like that. I looked at him and felt sorry for him. I threw myself into his arms and hugged his neck tightly. I whispered to Han Hao, "Xiao Hao, why are you so stupid? Why did you do that? Does Uncle know? You will be held hostage by my father for the rest of your life. He is that kind of person. Don't think that he is just saying it casually. If something really happens to you, Dad won't let you go. Just treat it as me begging you, okay? For me, for E, you have to take good care of yourself, okay? Tears flowed from the corners of my eyes. Silly, why are you crying so sadly? Auntie told you, didn't she? Actually, I did it willingly because I fell in love with you when I first saw you. Your father knew that you were soft-hearted and not suited to be a spy, so he asked me to go. He said that if I didn't go, he would tell Duanmu Lixiong about the secret information about the Black Nightmare Society that my father had provided him. It was only then that I found out about the things my father had done for Uncle. Thinking that I would be able to see you often, I agreed without hesitation, including the fact that the Black Nightmare Society's internal funds were in deficit and that the project was facing bankruptcy. I was also the one who told Uncle about it. But it wasn't my idea to ask Uncle to purchase the loss-making project of the Black Nightmare Society. I have something to ask you. I hope you can tell me honestly. Did you cause Duanmukei's internal financial deficit? I suddenly felt that my outlook on life had collapsed. I thought to myself, if Duanmukei was forced to work for my father, but if he was the one who caused the Kurosawa's internal financial deficit, I would never forgive him. Darling, what are you thinking about? I am indebted to the Kurosawa. I only told Uncle about the Kurosawa's current situation. I didn't do anything else. I can swear to you, I can let myself down, I can let anyone down, but I can never let my family down, I can never let you down, I can never let you down, I can never let the Kurosawa down. It's just that I didn't expect Uncle's methods to be so sinister. What I told Uncle just now was only about our marriage, not about the Kurosawa. I looked at Han Hao. He was seriously explaining to me, so he shouldn't be lying. Just as I was thinking about this, Han Hao hugged me tightly in his arms. He whispered to me, "Darling, don't think too much. Right now, you should think about what to do. Since I told you about this matter, I know it will make you unhappy, but I don't want to hide anything from you. Darling, as long as you believe me, everything else has nothing to do with me. For you, I'm not afraid of death, that's the truth." I hugged Han Hao and whispered to him, "All right, this matter is over. No one can say anything to Dad, so we can only let Mom handle it. After a while, I will go to Duanmukei's house. Mom gave me a bank card with 5 million renminbi in it. I also transferred 10 million renminbi from the Red Minghui. Although I'm not going to give the money, I just want to see them. I'm afraid this matter will be too big a blow to them." Han Hao nodded and whispered, "I understand. When are you going to go?" "I have to celebrate your and Yi's birthdays. Suri and Xinyao are busy with this matter right now. It won't be good if I tell them not to do it. Also, this is the first birthday I'm spending with you. It means a lot to me, so don't refuse me. This matter is finally going to start. You can't refuse." I leaned into Han Hao's arms, my heart no longer feeling so insecure. Han Hao gently stroked my hair and said to me, "Idiot, you prepared it for me. How could I refuse your kindness? Besides, I can't stay with you for long enough. I always feel like time passes too quickly. Actually, let me tell you a secret. I still haven't recovered from what happened this morning. What should I do? Turns out it's addictive. You have to be responsible for me. You have to be responsible for me." Han Hao kissed my lips. His hand reached into my clothes. It seemed like his desire was once again ignited. Chapter 230. After a while, Han Hao and I lay on the bed, so tired that we couldn't get up. After tossing and turning for a while, both of us were tired. I glanced at the time. There was still some time before dinner, so I laid in Han Hao's arms and prepared to sleep for a while. Just as I closed my eyes, the bedroom door was pushed open. Startled, Han Hao and I turned our heads to look. It was Xinyao. "Sister-in-law, I'm here." I heard Xinyao, and I tightly covered our blankets as she stood at the door. She also saw the two of us lying naked on the bed. She looked at us in shock. "Ah, I didn't see anything." I didn't hear anything. I don't know anything. With that, Xinyao left and closed the door. I helplessly covered my head with the blanket. Han Hao probably didn't expect Xinyao to randomly barge in from outside. He gently patted me and said, "Little fool, we should get up. I reckon Xinyao and Suri are both here. Let's hurry up and get up." I helplessly shook my head. After Han Hao and I cleaned up, Han Hao and I went downstairs. As soon as we arrived, we saw Suri and the Red Baron sitting on the sofa. The Red Baron was playing with Yi in the living room. Mother and father weren't there. After we went downstairs, I looked at the Red Baron and asked, "Red Baron, where are father and mother?" The Red Baron looked up at me and said, "The chairman and madam went out. They said they have a tea party and won't be home for dinner tonight." Tea party? It should be Madam G's tea party. Did the two of them go together? The Red Baron nodded. "That's right. I think they're doing well." Hearing the Red Baron's words, I immediately understood that the two of them had made up. At this time, Xinyao looked at Han Hao with a smirk on her face and said, "Gidge Han Hao, looks like you've taken down my sister-in-law. How about it? When is the wedding? I can't wait to drink." Han Hao's face turned red. He looked at Xinyao and said, "Don't be naughty. How can you be like this? You're sister-in-law, and I haven't decided when to do it. When the time comes, I'll definitely tell you." I looked at Xinyao's mischievous smile and knew that she must have misunderstood. I thought for a bit and quickly changed the topic. I looked at Xinyao and said, "Why did you come here today? Are you done with the birthday party?" Suri nodded and said, Yep. The preparations for the party are pretty much done. Missy, when are you going to hold the party? Including who you're going to invite, you have to tell us in advance so that Xinyao and I can send out the invitations. Let's set it the day after tomorrow. Specifically, we'll invite some of our friends. If you have friends you want to invite, that's fine too. Invite them as well. It'll be nice if it's lively. The main thing is to celebrate Yi's birthday. Oh, right, Yi has a little boyfriend. This is Yi's request and can't be forgotten. Red Baron, take care of this matter. No problem, don't worry. Red Baron smiled and nodded. At this time, Xinyao took Yi into her arms. She smiled and asked, "Little girl, you have a boyfriend? My Yi is so lovable. Auntie has prepared a very beautiful little dress for you. I'll bring it to you the day after tomorrow. I personally designed it." Then Xinyao kissed Yi on the cheek. Yi looked at Xinyao and very seriously said, "Auntie, that friend of mine is very handsome, very cute. We have a lot of children who like him. But he is willing to be with me. I like him very much." Looking at Yi's cute appearance, we all laughed very happily. After dinner, Han Hao was called back by the Kurosawa. It seemed that the Kurosawa issue was still very thorny. After celebrating his birthday this week, I had to go to the Duanmu house immediately. I had been very conflicted about my father's actions. I was conflicted about whether or not I should tell the Red Baron and Suri. Although they were the two people I trusted the most, this was our family's private matter. Would it affect my father's position in their hearts if I told them? I walked to the rattan chair in the garden. My heart was in a mess. Without Han Hao by my side, I felt insecure. I didn't know what to do. Then Suri and the Red Baron walked over. Xinyao didn't follow them. I looked behind them. Then Suri said, "Don't worry. Xinyao is taking care of Yi, the Red Baron, and I found an excuse to run away." I nodded and said softly, "Oh, that's good. Why are you here? Is it because there's a new development in Kurosawa?" Suri and the Red Baron looked at each other. Then he looked at me and said, "I have bad news to tell you. You have to hold on." I was stunned for a moment. I looked at Suri and nodded. Suri sighed and said softly, "Miss, the news of Duanmu K's engagement has been announced. It's scheduled for the end of this month, so there's only half a month left. The woman of the engagement is the woman of the rich second generation. It seems that the family used the engagement as an excuse to promise President Duanmu that as long as Duanmu K and his daughter got engaged, he would invest another sum of money to save Kurosawa. If they didn't get engaged, he would immediately withdraw his investment. President Duan was under a lot of pressure, so he agreed. On the other hand, Duan resisted at first, but now he has completely given up and has even chosen to acquiesce. I didn't know why, but when I heard Suri's words, my heart was shocked. I said softly, "Oh, that's good. At least it can alleviate the Kurosawa's urgent situation. That's good." The Red Baron sighed and said to me, "Can you stop lying to yourself? You obviously feel uncomfortable, but you have to pretend that you don't care. After all, he's Yi's father. Don't you have feelings for him? I don't believe you. But what can I do? I have Han Hao now, and it's good. I don't want to disturb his life, and I don't want him to disturb me. Forget it." After a while, I'll go to Duanmu's house, and I won't have anything to do with them anymore. Chapter 231. At this time, Suri said to me, "Missy, don't think too much. You can do whatever you want. We will support you unconditionally. Don't be fooled by Red Baron's words. In reality, she is still worried about you. She is worried that you will be wronged." "I understand. All right, don't think about it now. Let's get Han Hao and Yi's birthday party done first. After that, I will do what I need to do. You just need to cooperate with me." After chatting with Suri and Red Baron, Suri and Xinyao left. The Red Baron also went back to her room. I took Yi back to the bedroom. While I was playing with Yi, I received a text. I opened it and saw that it was from Han Hao. He sent me a message. "Darling, what are you busy with? I miss you. I also miss us, Yi." Seeing him say that, I smiled. I dialed Han Hao's number. "Darling, you miss me? I'm playing with Yi. Do you want to talk to Yi?" Han Hao said, "I'll talk to Yi later. I have something to tell you. First, promise me that you won't be angry." I immediately understood what Han Hao wanted to tell me. I whispered to Han Hao, "You want to tell me about Duanmu's engagement with that woman, right? I already heard it from Suri. It's fine. His matters have nothing to do with me. I don't feel anything. So, darling, you don't have to worry about me being uncomfortable. Don't I have you? Between the two of us, we can't let other people affect our relationship, right? Now I really want to be by your side. I really want to be with you. Sai, what should I do? Hurry up and marry me. I can't wait." Han Hao began to act cute. I actually felt that he was very cute. I couldn't help but laugh. I whispered to Han Hao, I already promised you. What are you worried about? It will be fine after a while. What are you doing now?" I looked at the time. It was already 8 o'clock. It seemed that the meeting ended early today. I don't know why, but I feel very tired today. Sai, I'm getting old. As expected, I can't take it anymore. In the future, I'll have to work out properly. Hearing Han Hao's words, I could tell that he must be very tired right now. Suddenly, I felt a little worried. I glanced at Yi. She was still having fun. I whispered to Han Hao, "Wait a moment." I looked at Yi and asked, "Yi, Mummy will take you to find Daddy, okay?" Yi raised her head and looked at me blankly. Then she nodded vigorously. I smiled and patted her head. I told her to go pack her clothes. I said to Han Hao, "Yi and I will go find you later. We have a car at home. You don't have to pick me up." "Okay, I'll talk later. I'm going to pack my things." After that, I hung up the phone. I turned around and saw that Yi had already put on her clothes. She was standing at the door with her little backpack, looking at me. I smiled at Yi and packed a few things into the backpack. Then, I carried Yi downstairs and happened to see my parents coming back from outside. Mother looked at me and asked softly, "It's so late. Where are you going with Yi?" I looked at my mother and said, Mummy, Han Hao just got off work. I want to go find him. I won't be coming back tonight. Yi misses him too." Mother looked at me in disbelief. Then she looked at Yi and said, "My precious granddaughter, do you miss Uncle Han Hao? Don't lie to Grandma." Yi looked at her mother and said seriously, "It's Daddy. It's Daddy. I miss Daddy. I asked Mummy to take me there. Mother looked at E and said to me, "Why didn't you give me more clothes? It's pretty cold outside. Why don't you give her a jacket?" E grabbed my hand and pulled me outside. I turned to look at my mother and said, "Mummy, it's okay. There are clothes in the car. If it's really not okay, I'll give E my clothes. I'm leaving first." Then I followed E out the door. E and I set out on our journey. Soon, we arrived at Han Hao's house. He was already waiting for us at the door. After E and I got out of the car, he walked over. He hugged E and kissed me on the cheek. He whispered to me, "Dear, you've worked hard. You even made a trip here." I turned to look at the villa behind Han Hao. Other than Han Hao's bedroom and living room lights, the other rooms were dark. I looked at Han Hao and asked, "Darling, is Uncle home? I came in a hurry and forgot to bring a gift." Han Hao reached out and stroked my hair. "My dad went on a business trip today. I'm the only one left at home." I smiled and looked at Han Hao. "Looks like I came to the right place. I can spend some time with you." Seeing Han Hao, my mood improved a lot. Seeing that he was fine, my heart also felt a lot better. Han Hao led us into the living room and directly upstairs. As soon as we entered the bedroom, my heart warmed again. Han Hao was really considerate. He had specially prepared a small window next to his big bed. I could see that the bed sheets and covers were all the latest. The whole room was very clean. Actually, Han Hao was a bit of a neat freak. Not only did he make himself very neat every day, but his work environment, living environment, and even his car were all very clean and tidy. I didn't think that was a bad thing. Actually, I was a bit of a neat freak too. That's why we were fated. Han Hao looked at me. He could tell what I was thinking. He whispered to me, "I just asked Auntie to prepare this. It's all clean. I know that E likes to sleep in soft beds, so I specially made the mattress thicker. The pillows are buckwheat pillows, which are good for the cervical spine. Also, I don't have any children's toys here. It just so happens that Auntie's grandson has some toys in our house. When Auntie heard that E was coming, she offered them to me. If you want to give E a bath, I'll go turn on the water now." E ran past us into the bedroom and went straight for the toys. I looked at Han Hao and said, "No need. E already took a bath at home." Xin Yao already gave her a bath. Let her play for a while. When it's 10 o'clock, let her go to bed. You can't let her play too much. She'll be spoiled. Okay, I know. I won't spoil her." Han Hao hugged me from behind. He whispered in my ear, "Darling, when are we going to take a bath?" Hearing him say that, I blushed again. Chapter 232. I leaned against Han Hao and looked at E, who was seriously playing with her toys. I whispered to Han Hao, "Don't do this in front of the child. It's not good. E can't be left alone. Let's shower separately." "All right, we can't do that at night. After all, the child is still here." Han Hao gently kissed my neck and said, "Silly, I know. Then you go shower first. I'll play with E for a while." I nodded and took the toys to shower. After I finished showering, Han Hao went to shower. I looked at E and saw that she was already a little sleepy. I carried E to the bed, helped her change into her pajamas, and began to coax her to sleep. Just as I coaxed E to sleep, Han Hao finished showering and came out. He saw that E had fallen asleep, so he quietly climbed into the bed. He lay on top of me and looked at the sleeping E. He whispered, "E fell asleep?" I nodded and whispered, "Yeah, she just fell asleep. Maybe she's tired from the day." Han Hao suddenly flipped me over and pressed himself on top of me. Before I could react, Han Hao kissed my lips. My eyes widened and I didn't know what to do. I gently patted Han Hao's shoulder and asked him to quickly move away. After a while, Han Hao finally let go of me. He looked at me and smiled evilly. I turned my head and looked at E. I whispered, "Bad guy, E just fell asleep. What if you wake her up?" Han Hao's whole body pressed against my body, and he whispered in my ear, I know. Isn't it because I miss you?" Darling, don't move. Let me hug you for a while. Han Hao hugged me tightly, as if he was afraid that I would leave. Han Hao lay on top of me for a while. Then, he got up and lay down next to me. He leaned on my shoulder and whispered, "Honey, I'm tired. I want to sleep early. I'll stay with you tomorrow." Then, Han Hao fell asleep next to me. Looking at him sleeping soundly, I could feel that he must be exhausted. I pulled the blanket over him. He must be tired. Han Hao's smooth face had stubble. I leaned on his shoulder and gradually fell asleep. When I woke up the next morning, Han Hao and E weren't by my side. I quickly got up and looked for the bathroom, but there was no sign of them. I stood by the window and calmed down. It turned out that Han Hao and E were playing in the garden. I changed my clothes and went downstairs. Just then, the two of them came back. I looked at Han Hao. He seemed to be in much better spirits after sleeping. I looked at him and said, "Why are you up so early? I just saw the two of you playing in the garden. You look much better today than yesterday." Han Hao nodded. He smiled and said to me, I feel much better after sleeping." When I woke up, I saw that E was already awake. She was lying on the bed, looking at us. She probably woke up a while ago, but didn't dare to wake us up. Then I got up and took her to wash up, and we went out to play for a while. Just in time, I asked Auntie to make breakfast. "It looks like breakfast is almost ready. Let's go eat." I nodded. Han Hao looked at me as he ate. "Darling, I just received a call from Suri. He wants us to go back to your house early today to prepare for the birthday party. So, let's go home later." "Okay, but is there nothing going on in Kurosawa? Is it appropriate for you not to go?" "It's okay. I'll call the HR department and ask for leave. You guys are the most important. Besides, Kurosawa is busy with Xiaokei's wedding. Everything else has been put on hold, so I don't have anything to do here. Since Suri called and asked me to go, it wouldn't be good if I didn't go. So, let's go after eating." I nodded. After eating, we went back to my house. When we got home, Suri and Xin Yao were already there. They were starting to decorate the living room. When she saw us come in, Xin Yao threw herself at me. She looked at me and said, "Sister-in-law, you're back. You stayed at Brother Han Hao's place yesterday, right? Ioyo, what a romantic atmosphere." Han Hao walked over to Xin Yao and patted her on the head. With a serious face, he said to Suri, "Take your wife away. She's too gossipy." When Han Hao said this, his face was red. Suri walked over to Han Hao with a lewd smile and said in a low voice, "It's okay, Xiao Hao. We're both men, we understand." I could see that Han Hao's face was even more embarrassed. I quickly took over and said to Suri, Okay, don't make fun of us. Let's hurry up and get busy." "Oh right. Did you prepare everyone's formal attire?" Only then did Xin Yao remember. She clapped her hands and said, I forgot about the important matter. I brought everyone's formal attire. Don't worry, every formal attire is unique in the world. They were all personally designed by me. Hubby, hurry up and bring me my suitcase." Suri nodded and went to the side hall to bring over a suitcase. Xin Yao really did design a formal attire for all of us. For Han Hao, she prepared a white slim-fit shirt, casual suit pants, and a pair of limited edition leather shoes. According to Xin Yao, there were less than 500 pairs of these shoes in the entire country. It was a birthday gift she had specially prepared for Han Hao. Xin Yao prepared a red backless mermaid evening gown for the Red Baron. The Red Baron's figure was already very good, so wearing this dress made her look even more perfect. Xin Yao also prepared a pair of red strappy high heels for the Red Baron, which made her look very noble. Han Hao prepared a small white dress for Yi. It was a fluffy princess dress with a pink headdress, a pair of white leather shoes, and a pair of white princess socks. It made Yi look like a little princess. I had to say that Xin Yao's taste and design were the best. Yi liked it very much. After putting it on, she didn't want to take it off. At this time, Xin Yao took out a silver evening gown from her suitcase. She handed it to me and said softly, "Sister-in-law, take this and change into it." I made this for you. The accessories are all here. Take it and change into it. I nodded and took the gown upstairs. After I changed into it, I realized that the dress Xinyao had designed for me was a strapless, slim-fit dress with long silver gloves on the arms and crystal shoes on the feet. The entire outfit fit my style perfectly, low-key. I looked at myself in the mirror and couldn't help but sigh. Time was like a knife. I seemed to have aged a little. When I thought about how handsome Han Hao was, I suddenly felt that I wasn't worthy of him. I walked out of the bedroom and went downstairs. Everyone's eyes were on me. I looked at Han Hao and saw that he was stunned. My face was a little red. Chapter 233. It's so beautiful. Xinyao couldn't help but exclaim. I went downstairs and walked over to them. Han Hao looked at me and reached out to gently caress my face. His expression was very gentle. Xinyao's dress is really beautiful. Darling, you look really beautiful in it. I'm a bit jealous. If you wear this beautiful tomorrow, what if someone takes you away? Han Hao reached out and pulled me into his arms. Xinyao's face was filled with black lines as she looked at Han Hao and said, Ayaya, why are you watching your wife so closely? She's wearing such a beautiful dress to give you face. Tomorrow, sister-in-law, you'll dress like this. You'll definitely be the most beautiful woman. After the dresses were finalized, we began to prepare the decorations for the birthday party. Just like that, the preparations were more or less done. Because we were afraid that there wouldn't be enough time, Suri and Xinyao spent the night at our house. Han Hao didn't go home either. He stayed with Yi and me. Finally, the day of the birthday party arrived. All of us put on our dresses. The Red Baron even specially called a few girls from Red Minghui to do our makeup. The birthday party proceeded in an orderly manner. My parents, Han Hao, and Suri were already at the door receiving the guests. It was more or less troublesome for the three of us to dress up, and we still had to help Yi dress up. When we were almost done, the nanny knocked on the bedroom door and said that a child had come to celebrate Yi's birthday. I thought for a moment, and thought that it should be Yi's little boyfriend from the early education center. I was almost done with my preparations. I looked at Yi and saw that she still needed a bit more. I should go out and receive the guests first. I walked out of the bedroom. There were already many people downstairs. In the corner of the living room, I saw Yi's little boyfriend with a woman beside him. I walked over and looked at the woman. Hello, you must be Yi's mother. Hello, I'm Yi's mother. I'm very happy that you brought Yi to my daughter and my lover's birthday party. Thank you very much. The woman smiled and reached out her hand. Hello, about Yi's birthday. It was your lover who personally came to my house to tell me. That's how I found out that Yi and Yi have such a good relationship. At the time, he also really wanted to come to the birthday party. So we came to disturb you today. I shook the woman's hand and smiled. How is that a disturbance? I can't thank you enough. Don't worry, Yi is tidying up. She'll come down soon. Before I finished speaking, I saw Yi running down the stairs in a formal dress. She ran in front of me, took Yi's hand and said, Yi, you're here. That's great. Mom didn't lie to me. Let's go play. Yi took a doll from behind him and handed it to Yi. He said shyly, This is my birthday present for you. I hope you like it. Yi looked very cute when she was shy. Yi took the doll from his hand and gently kissed him on the cheek. Then she pulled him away to play somewhere else. I handed Yi's mother to the Red Baron and asked her to take care of it. Coincidentally, Xinyao also came downstairs, so Xinyao and I went out to find Suri and Han Hao. It wasn't good to leave only the two of them to receive the guests. As soon as I arrived at the garden, I saw several people standing by Han Hao and Suri. I thought something had happened, so I hurried over. Only when I reached them did I realize that someone had come to the birthday party. It was someone who used to have a grudge against me. I stood next to Han Hao and looked at the person. It was none other than Xin. My expression immediately became serious. UXIN also saw me and sneered. It had only been 3 years since we last met, but UXIN had become more mature. She wore a white dress today and looked very low-key. She stood in front of us with 2 gift bags in her hands. It was obvious that this kind of occasion wasn't suitable for her to appear. Han Hao saw that my expression was a bit unnatural. He tightly hugged my shoulder and whispered to me, "Darling, you go in first. I'm here. Don't be uncomfortable." At this time, UXIN sneered and looked at me. "I heard that Han Hao's birthday party is going to be held at your house. I heard that you're back, so I came to attend. It's a good opportunity to see you." I looked at her and said softly, "Come in with me." Then I turned and walked into the garden. UXIN followed behind me. She didn't say a word. When we arrived at the pavilion, I sat down and looked at UXIN. She sat across from me, her expression calm. I said to her, "You didn't come here just to celebrate Han Hao's birthday, did you?" UXIN smiled. "You're still as smart as ever. I didn't come here just to celebrate Han Hao's birthday. It seems that the matter of you and Han Hao being together is true." I nodded and said to her, "Yeah, I've already agreed to marry him. I'll let you know when the time comes." "You're not married yet? That child isn't yours and Han Hao's?" UXIN looked at me as if she was questioning me. She continued, "Or, when you and Duanmu Gij got married, did you already have sex with him? Did you have Han Hao's child?" I stood up and slapped the table. I looked at UXIN and said loudly, "I know. You came here today to look for trouble. What does it matter to you who the child is? If you came to Han Hao's birthday party, I'll welcome you. But if you come here looking for trouble, don't blame me for being impolite." UXIN looked at me and sneered. She sighed and said, "That's true. What does it matter to me who the child is? I can't even keep an eye on the man I love. What right do I have to argue with you?" I looked at her. She seemed to have something to say. UXIN looked at me and said, "Did you know that Duanmu K is getting engaged?" She sneered and said, "I always thought that after you left, Duanmu K would belong to me. Indeed, after you left, he was depressed every day. He got drunk every day. There were a few times when I wanted to comfort him when he was drunk, but every time, he thought I was you. He pressed me down on the bed and had sex with me like a beast. At first he didn't admit it, but after it happened so many times, he had no choice but to admit it. To tell you the truth, I was pregnant once. I thought that with a child, I could tie him down and make Uncle Duanmu and Auntie Xiao accept me. But I was completely wrong. He forced me to abort the child. Then he threw me there like a piece of garbage. When I gradually calmed down, I saw that woman and heard that he was going to be engaged. I broke down at that time. I don't even know how I survived until now." Chapter 234. I looked at UXIN. It turned out that she had experienced so many things during this period of time, but I didn't feel sorry for her at all. She really deserved it. UXIN had tears in the corner of her eyes as she looked at me and said, "I don't know where that woman heard about the things that happened between me and Duanmu Gij. One day, she went to the Duanmu house, and while there was no one at home, she cornered me and called 4 or 5 people to beat me up. Then she called 3 or 4 men to defile me. After that, she threatened me that if I dared to tell anyone, she would tear me apart. You don't know how much pain I'm in right now. A while ago, I went to the hospital and received a piece of shocking news. Haha, I can no longer have a child. Moreover, that woman said to Uncle Duanmu that if I still lived in the Duanmu house after she and the Duanmu K got married, she would immediately divorce me and even withdraw the investment that his father had invested in the Kurosawa. Uncle Duanmu actually agreed to her. Haha, I really am homeless now. I have nothing left. Cold glaze. This is retribution for all the things that I have done to you. I don't have anything to think about now. Fortunately, I still have some savings. After a while, I will move out of the Duanmu house." I didn't know why, but I suddenly felt that UXIN was very pitiful. Maybe it was because of my maternal instincts, but I didn't hate UXIN as much. I sighed and looked at her and said, "Forget it, don't think too much. It's rare that Han Hao is so happy today, and I don't want him to be unhappy. The grudges between us, starting from today, will be written off. Even though I don't know if what you said to me is true or not, I'll treat it as if what you said is true. I also hope that you can keep your promise. Don't worry about anything else. Let's go to the front and see how the party preparations are going." With that, I stood up, and UXIN also stood up and followed behind me. I walked over to Han Hao's side. They were also receiving guests at the entrance. This time, there were a lot of guests, and they were all good friends of everyone. I walked over to Han Hao's side and told them about my conversation with UXIN. Han Hao looked at UXIN, then looked at me and said, "Dear, do you think UXIN's words are trustworthy?" "I'm not sure if they are trustworthy or not." I also told her that as long as she doesn't cause any trouble at the party, it's fine. "Isn't today your birthday? I don't want anyone to disturb our mood." I held Han Hao's arm and gently comforted him. Han Hao hugged me and softly said, "And, okay dear, as long as you're happy. I see that there are a lot of people here today. I'll send someone to keep an eye on UXIN. You don't need to worry, I'm here." Han Hao gently kissed my forehead. The Red Baron turned around and looked at UXIN. "Hello, I'm the young Miss Personal Bodyguard. Please stay with me." I don't want anyone to cause trouble at the young Miss birthday party, so I hope you can cooperate. UXIN stared blankly for a moment, then looked at the Red Baron and nodded. "Okay, I understand. I'll stay with you." While we were chatting at the entrance, a Ferrari pulled up at the entrance. The car looked familiar, but I couldn't remember whose car it was. After the people in the car got out, I knew whose car it was. It turned out to be Duanmu K and the woman he was going to be engaged to. I looked at Han Hao and softly asked, "Did you invite Xiao K?" Han Hao shook his head and softly said, "No. I knew you didn't want to see him, so I didn't invite him. It's really strange. How did he know I was going to have a birthday party?" At this moment, Xian Yao seemed to have remembered something. She said to me, "I remember now. When Suri and I were making invitations at home, my brother saw us. He must have seen us, so he came. I didn't tell him. I told him it was a secret." I reached out and stroked Xian Yao's hair. "Okay, I know it doesn't have much to do with you. Don't think too much. Let's see what they want first." I looked at Duanmu K and the woman. Duanmu K was wearing a black suit, and the woman was wearing a black spaghetti strap dress. Han Hao was holding 2 gift bags, and the woman was holding Duanmu K's arm. She had a strange smile on her face, and I could tell she didn't come with good intentions. Duanmu K and the woman came in front of Han Hao. Duanmu K looked at Han Hao and softly said, "Xiao Hao, happy birthday. This is a birthday present I prepared for you and your baby. Please accept it." The woman sneered and looked at Han Hao with disdain. "So you're Han Hao. I've heard Duanmu K talk about you. So you're the woman that Duanmu K didn't want." The woman turned her head and looked at me. "It's not that great. You guys are fighting over it? TSK, TSK, TSK. No wonder you can't compare to Duanmu, Quebec. Your taste is really bad." At this time, Xin Yao couldn't stand it anymore. She rushed in front of the woman and shouted at her, "You shut up. Don't think that just because my brother wants to marry you, you can talk to my sister-in-law like that. You're really shameless. Let me tell you, you and my brother don't have any feelings. I don't know how my brother could fall in love with a slut like you." "Shut up, sister-in-law. I'm telling you. You only have me as your sister-in-law right now. Don't push your luck." The woman rushed in front of Xian Yao and reached out to hit her. Suri quickly blocked Xian Yao behind him. Seeing that the situation wasn't good, I quickly said to her, "Okay, today is my family's birthday party. You guys are welcome to come and play. I hope you don't cause trouble here." The woman glared at me. She just happened to see Xian standing behind us. Her eyes lit up. She pushed us aside and rushed in front of Xian. Grabbing Xian's neck, she said loudly, Yo, why are you everywhere? What? Guanmu's family can't hold you anymore? You came here to cause trouble for others? You haven't been defiled enough, so you came here to find a man? Who do you like? Do you want me to send a man to your bed again? The woman's expression looked like she wanted to eat you Xin. You Xin shook off the woman's hand, hugged her head, and squatted on the ground crying. The Red Baron quickly stood in front of you Xin. She looked at the woman and said, "You want to cause trouble at the Lung residence? We welcome you to the party. If you want to cause trouble, don't blame me for being impolite." The woman looked at the Red Baron and sneered. "And who are you? Do you know who I am? You dare to bark at me?" You're tuning in to the Echo Reads YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.